Good evening and welcome to the Monday, August 22nd, 2022, 6 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Garden Successor Agency to the Community Development Commission. The meeting will not come to order at 6:10. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, please be advised that members of the Bell Garden Successor Agency may participate in today's meeting telephonically. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any agency member should have a conflict of interest virtually, please leave the room by muting yourself and turning video off. You may still continue listening to the meeting. Tonight's invocation will be led by Pastor Leal, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our city manager.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilmen and women, our chief, all the staff. It is an honor to lead you in prayer. So let us come into the presence of God. Father, I want to thank you for our mayor, for our councilmen and women, for our chief, for all the different departments that make our city work. Father, may you be with them in this meeting. May you guide them. May your spirit and your grace be upon them. May everything they do will be for your honor and for the well-being of each citizen. Father, we put him in your hands and we ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Please rise, face the flag, place your right hand over your heart and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agency Secretary, will you please call the roll of the successor agency?
Yes, Chair. Agency Member Barcena?
Sorry, I have something here. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Present.
Cortez?
Present.
Flores?
Present.
Vice Chair Chavez?
Present.
Thank you. And Chair Pulido?
Present.
Thank you.
We will now move to the first item on the agenda. Public participation is now open. Agency Secretary, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
Yes, Mayor. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the items listed on the successor agency agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the chair and agency members. Each speaker and written comment is limited to 3 minutes. Written comments will be read out loud after all speakers have been heard. Anyone wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by pressing *9. When instructed, press *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make comments by using the raise your hand feature. And it looks like there are no speakers for the successor agency public agenda item comments.
If there's no objection by the agency members, I will close public participation. We will now move to consent calendar. Does any member wish to pull an item for separate discussion? May I have a motion? It's muted.
How about a motion to approve?
May I have a second?
Cortez seconds.
Agency Secretary, will you please conduct roll call vote?
Yes, Chair. Agency Member Barcena?
Yes.
Cortez?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Vice Chair Chavez?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Pulido?
Yes.
Thank you.
We will now move to public participation for non-agenda items. Public participation is now open. Agency Secretary, are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
If there's no objection by the City Council, we'll now close public participation. Does any agency member wish to make a comment? If there's no objection by the successor agency, I will adjourn the successor agency meeting at 6:15 and call to order the City Council meeting. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, August 22nd, 2022, 6 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Gardens City Council. The meeting will not come to order at 6:15. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, please be advised that the members of the Bell Gardens City Council may participate in today's meeting telephonically. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any city council member should have any conflict of interest virtually, please leave the room by turning off video and muting yourself. You may continue listening to the meeting. City Clerk, will you please call the roll of the City Council?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Barcena,
Present.
Cortez,
Present.
Flores,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Present.
and Mayor Pulido.
Present.
Thank you.
We will now move to presentation. City Manager, will you please introduce our presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Polito. The first and only presentation that we have tonight is a proclamation for National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. Important day, and I'll have a little bit of information too to add on to that as part of the city manager's report later on. Thank you, Mayor.
Lisette, would you like to read the proclamation?
I will now be reading a City of Bell Gardens proclamation. A proclamation recognizing National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day is a day of education to raise public awareness that people are dying at an alarming rate due to illegally made fentanyl. And fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is approximately 50 times more potent than heroin and 100 times more potent than morphine. And fentanyl is odorless, tasteless, inexpensive, widely available, highly addictive, and often found in counterfeit pills disguised as oxycodone, Percocet, Xanax, Vicodin, which can be deadly, and whereas overdose deaths linked to synthetic opioids like fentanyl tripled nationally among teenagers in the last 2 years. And some of these deaths attributed to fentanyl mixed with other illicit drugs like cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin, with many users unaware that they were actually taking fentanyl, and only 2 milligrams of fentanyl is considered potentially lethal dose. It's particularly dangerous for someone who does not have a tolerance to opioids. And according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 107,375 people in the United States died of drug overdoses and drug poisonings in the 12-month period ending January 2022, with a staggering 67% of those deaths involved synthetic opioids like fentanyl. And the DEA is observing August 21st, 2022 as National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day in remembrance of the loved ones that died from fentanyl poisoning. And now therefore here resolved that Maria Pulido, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the council hereby proclaim this day as National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day in the City of Bell Gardens.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to say something very quickly based on this proclamation. Our city is in a crisis. Fentanyl has plagued our community, and it is destroying the lives of people from coast to coast. It is absolutely necessary that our city be alerted, that we recognize that this danger will not pass, that Bell Gardens is not safe, and nothing will change until and unless we take firm action against those who threaten our safety. We have the responsibility and the authority to clean up our city, starting with our parks. It is a bare minimum that we can do for our children, for the families, for every single one of us. On Friday, July 22nd, on an early afternoon, my 24-year-old and on the spectrum cousin, Oscar Iñiguez, died at Veterans Park. My cousin was an aspiring musician who never visited our parks. His mother and his father cared for him 24/7. And on this day, without his parents' knowledge and consent, he left and he was found dead hours later. Oscar left his house with $70 in his wallet. The next day, we picked up his body and his belongings at the coroner's office with the same $70 he had with him. It is clear my cousin did not purchase any drugs. yet he overdosed on what we strongly suspect to be fentanyl. My family is missing a member thanks to the individual who handed him a fatal drug for free. We have drug dealers handing out free drugs at our own Veterans Park. I'm filled with anger, but I'm also filled with force to protect each and every child and adult from the demons that roam our parks, handing out fentanyl and other poisons. As leaders today, we are acknowledging this epidemic, and it is a good start, but we have to do more. Today, at the end of this meeting, I will be giving direction for the purchase of Narcans for all city parks and staff, so that we can save the life of every other child or adult that overdoses on this drug. And that is all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager, do you have an update for us?
Yes, Mayor Polito. Staff would recommend that we, prior to starting the public hearing, that we move the public participation on agenda items forward to occur prior to the public hearing.
If there's no objection by the City Council, I would ask to follow City Manager's recommendation. Is that okay? Okay. We will now move to the next item on the agenda. Public participation is now open for items listed on the agenda. City Clerk, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
Yes, Mayor. We received 57 written comments. I'll begin with the instructions. The member of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the items listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the City Council. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Written comments will be read out loud after all speakers have been heard. Anyone wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by pressing *9. When instructed, press *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make comments using the raise hand feature on Zoom. I'll begin with the first speaker. Host, can you please allow Eastard in?
Hi, I just wanted to clarify, this is for, can I speak on item 1 right now?
Yes,
For the public hearing?
yes.
Perfect.
Ma'am, if I may, this is the city attorney. I just want to explain to you and to others who are waiting to comment on the public hearing item. The public hearing was closed at the last meeting, so we're not going to be accepting any more public comment with respect to the public hearing. However, you may provide public comment on the agenda item because the City Council is still considering whether or not to approve this item. So your comments tonight will be made part of the record for tonight's meeting, but they will not be incorporated into the public hearing.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Cool. My name is Laura. I am a landlord and live in the city of Bell Gardens. I wanted to, again, as folks are reconsidering renter protections, to state that as a landlord, I support tenant protections in the city of Bell Gardens. I appreciate the time that has been taken around this item and the long hours that we have already spent, a lot of folks have spent on this. I want to urge the council to move forward with something stronger than what staff has actually recommended, which is a 3% cap max. I'm aware that there are other options tonight, but since the committee that has been working on this has formed, rents have continued to skyrocket. And so wanted to make sure that folks are aware that there are landlords out there who do support rent control. I know that not all landlords are bad, and that when folks are making a profit, paying the mortgage, does not come in the form of tenant abuse, right? And a lot of these folks, if you are a landlord, but you are not abusing your power, then there should be no issue with renter protections. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you allow JDR in?
Hello, my name is Jocelyn Del Real. I am a resident here in the city of Bell Gardens. I am also very confused by what that means in terms of the public hearing. But regardless, I'm here again to support the many tenants of our community that deserve better. And in the words of a community member that testified in the last meeting, how much more do you need to hear? There's been community members sharing their struggles with y'all workshop, after town hall, after council meeting, and we're just asking for the chance to help renters in the city, live una vida digna without having to worry whether they'll be unjustly evicted, displaced, or if they'll be able to put food on the table if the rent goes any higher. Again, we urge you, please limit the annual rent increases to a ceiling of 3%. Adopt a just cause eviction ordinance to limit no-fault evictions, provide relocation assistance to tenants evicted on a no-fault ground. My dogs are also very passionate about this issue. And also create a rent board to enforce the ordinance and address habitability issues. Please take a stand for renters in our communities that are here today, that aren't here today, and for those that protections have come too late. We urge you and please listen to folks today.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Jasmine?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joshine Liberto, short for Jazz, and I am a Southeast LA resident, a former board member with California Latinas for Reproductive Justice, and a current Eastern Communities Environmental Justice member. I will not be repeating what my pro-rent control neighbors have been asking for. I agree with all of it and then some. With that said, as I'm sure you know, some of our multi-generational households are leaving the Southeast, not to mention the students in the classrooms. That's a huge problem. The future of Bell Gardens is leaving because we are not prioritizing la comunidad as a whole. I invite you to tap into your younger selves and think about your own family struggles. Is this how you would have wanted your parents and your abuelitos to be displaced? Is this how you would have wanted to leave your homeschool, your safe space? Understand that you're molding our society by your actions or lack thereof. You are showing our youth, our future leaders, how we are to treat those amongst us. In closing, our familias will remember you by the decision you make tonight. Not only the familias in Bell Gardens, but in all of Southeast LA. Buenas noches a todos.
Thank you. Host, can you please allow Yamsen?
Hi, my name is Yams. I'm a resident in Southeast LA. I just want to start off by giving a quick shout out to Councilmember Barcena and Mayor Pro Tem Jorge, because last time they voted for the people. So I just want to give a quick shout out and say thank you for voting with your conscience. Thank you for voting for the community. And I really implore the rest of y'all to do the same. Displacement is a real issue. And a lot of times, like, I'm not exaggerating when I say displacement is death. People die from being evicted every single day. And it's sad that we have to show up multiple times to say this, but housing is a public health issue. And I want y'all to consider that as you make a decision tonight. It really is a public health issue. Just in the same way that we've been talking about how we want to increase safety in our parks, we also want to increase safety by keeping people housed, by making sure that they have the resources they need. And that's it. I yield the rest of my time. Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow caller with the phone number ending 1193 in?
Hi, good evening. This is Tiffany Sanchez. I'm calling in support of the 3% rent cap. Let's see. We have been waiting for this whole council to be on this call. The last two meetings, the community has come out in full force to beg, to plead, to convince you all, to believe them when they say that the residents and tenants of Bell Gardens cannot afford anything more than a 3% rent cap. The council has canceled meetings. They've tried to bury our comments. We said what we needed to say, and now here we are. This is the time to name names. Jorge, Lisette, Marco, we need you all to vote yes on a 3% rent cap. You are our hope. You three can show the people, your constituents, that you are here for them, that you hear them, that you represent them. Your pockets aren't lined by the apartment association. You three, we need you to vote yes. Yes on a 3% rent cap. Cortez dipped early last 2 times. Pulido didn't even give us a second chance to listen to us. We just need 3 votes. You three are our beacons of hope. Cortez, Pulido, prove me wrong. Let's see where your hearts are. Are you with the tenants, the people that want to stay in BG? Or are you with landlords and people that just want to be greedy during a time when people are in need? This city is the lowest income city in all of California. And you all are debating whether or not 3% or 4%. It's 3%. 3% is an extra $40 in somebody's pocket to buy groceries. 3% is an extra month of gas for another week. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about people being homeless, and we're talking about people being able to thrive in the city that they're proud of to be from. We don't want to be displaced. We don't want to have to move out to Redlands. Let us be proud of being from BG and let us stay here. We need that 3% vote. We just need 3 people. Y'all are our hope. Please, please make the right decision and do this for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Host, can you please allow Cindy in?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name's Cindy. I'm an organizer with Eastern and community member here in Southeast LA. These types of protections that you're all debating on would have kept my parents closer to me and prevented a rent increase from a greedy landlord that ultimately pushed them out. And so I'm just, are you gonna side with the Marias and Dimas in the neighborhood that are still living in here struggling, but would benefit from these types of protections, or with the greedy landlord, like the one that pushed them out and many others that unfortunately own property in our neighborhoods? I really hope that you're listening with your hearts, and that you again push for and vote through an annual, a limit to the annual rent increases with the floor of 0% and the ceiling of 3%, that you adopt a strong and permanent just cause eviction ordinance. And that you provide relocation assistance to tenants, and create a rent board. All of these things that you're debating on are so, so crucial and beneficial, especially in the midst of an ongoing pandemic. The pandemic isn't over and these protections are so meaningful. They would have been really meaningful at the beginning of the pandemic as well, which is when my parents had to relocate. So that's the end of my comment. I hope you choose wisely today.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Diana in?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Diana. I'm born and raised in Southeast Los Angeles. I'm a community member in the area and an organizer with East Yard. And I really beg and urge council members to pass the 3% rent control in favor of it. Many of these comments have been heard for hours in the previous meeting. And to not get too philosophical, I truly think that the biggest disease is the disease of greed. And we are not asking for giveaways. We are not asking for free rent. We are asking just for the ability to have our livelihood and to continue to stay in our homes and to continue to have safety during such a time as now. And I strongly urge and hope that you will choose in favor of the needs of your constituents tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Host, can you please allow Itzel?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Itzel Flores Castillo Wong. I am a member of East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice, and I am calling in support of tenant protections and to urge the City Council to vote on limiting annual rent increases with a max ceiling of 3%, to adopt a strong and permanent just cause eviction ordinance to limit allowable no-fault evictions, to provide relocation assistance to tenants evicted on no fault grounds, and to create a rent board that's going to make sure all of these things happen and enforce this ordinance. I won't repeat what many people have already shared. And as someone earlier said as well, there's so many testimonies that happened last meeting. I just want to come here and urge you all to vote yes on all on this, to protect community members from facing eviction, from facing, as some people have said, a world that's not safe simply because they are left houseless. I urge you all to please vote on those, protect people. And yeah, what more do you have to hear? So many people have already shared their stories about greedy landlords or just things that, you know, could have prevented them from becoming houseless. And you're all here because people voted to get you here. So I think, as some people have said, listen to your constituents because they got you here and they deserve your protection and your vote as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Mateo in?
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Mateo. I'm an organizer with Keep LA Housed. And the reason I'm reaching out today is because we've been working a lot of tenants that are coming to Bell Gardens. And today, I'm here to speak in support of the collective organizing and advocacy efforts in Bell Gardens community. And we urge you to pass permanent tenant protections and rent control. Bell Gardens needs a limit in annual rent increases to 50% CPI with the floor of 0% and a ceiling of 3%. Bell Gardens has the lowest household median income of all the other California cities with rent control ordinances. To create more meaningful change in rent increases, they must be capped at 3%, and it must be lower than all the other California cities. I don't want to take up too much time and repeat what other folks have said, but these protections are needed, and we're hoping that y'all can be in support of tenants today. Thank you.
Thank you. Host, can you please allow Emily in?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yeah, so like you mentioned, my name is Emily, and I'm also a community member, as well as a member from East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. And I'm calling in to support the urgent approval of a 3% cap on rent increases, and also for just cause protections for evictions. I also strongly support relocation assistance for no-fault evictions and for a rent board to settle housing injustices that exist beyond what you hear about and see. Personal story is my family and I were evicted due to the sale of property back in 2018. And we only had less than a month to relocate due to menacing threats from our homeowner and their agent. It was very difficult to find a place within our budget, as the only available rent prices in the area nearly almost doubled for our family, who is of low income background. I still keep with me memories of sleepless nights, the fears of not knowing where we were going to live and how we were going to afford to live in a city where we had our everything, our family, our employment, and our schooling. I also made the difficult decision of commuting my last year of college to UCLA to support my family financially and work to funnel money not into my education, but for our essential survival. And sacrifices were made by everyone, and not just financial sacrifices. We sacrificed our time, our experiences, and our mental health, which affects our entire well-being. So I ask that you please consider the toll, which are the everyday realities of your community, not passing these measures will take. And please also consider those who have actually been houseless and who have had difficulty of where to turn. And that is my comment. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Megan in?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm calling. I am a landlord in the city. I only own 4 units. And it's disappointing to me to hear many tenant advocates, some of who don't even live in the city, call in and describe landlords as being greedy, simply because we are asking for a just rent increase to cover CPI. I get tired of my daughter's here, my 10-year-old daughter, listening to this meeting and hearing that her mom and dad, who are immigrants themselves, are greedy because they own a property and help provide housing. That type of narrative is so disingenuous. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have any protections, but trying to cap the rent increases at 3% is an arbitrary number that if you're not meeting CPI, owners are going to be falling behind and unable to maintain these properties. And in time, with declining income from the properties, you won't be able to afford to keep them. And I think that's a reality that we need to understand as a city, that we have to allow owners to be able to cover costs. It's not about greed. That's a false narrative. It's about fairness and balance, and understanding there should be some protections, but also we need to face the realities of being able to cover costs. So capping at 50% of CPI is going to cause people over time to decline with the property's income. And that's that we're already receiving increases in our property taxes every year. Property tax can increase 2%. We have seen 25 to 30% increases in our maintenance costs, insurance. That's way above the CPI, way above the CPI. And we're not asking for 25% increases because that would be ridiculous. But capping something at an arbitrary 3% is truly unfair.
Megan?
Yes.
Hi, do you still have more comments that you want to write?
Yeah, I just asked the council to please consider, I understand there's a lot of emotion behind the tenants, what they have to say, and I understand the struggles, and I have been there myself. I have been a tenant, but I really ask the council to set aside simply just emotion and try to seek a solution that maintains some balance. And I would like to say that also there's been a huge outreach to tenants just in this political process, and there's been very little, if any, outreach to landlords, who many of which are unaware of this. And I will tell you that there's some seniors that I know that own like one property in Bell Gardens. They live in one of the units and they're completely unaware that this happened. They haven't even had a chance to speak to you guys about it. So there's a lot of people that got left behind because there was a
Ma'am, your
huge
time is up. Thank you for your comments.
Host, can you please allow a caller with the phone number ending 3829 in? Caller with the phone number 3829, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6. Okay, host, we'll come back to that caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is Danielle Leidner-Pratt, and I'm with the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. I wanted to echo some of the points that were just made by the local housing provider that spoke. We submitted an extensive letter to the council on Friday, and I just wanted to echo some of the importance of what was stated in that letter. It's significantly important that the council consider the negative impact of local rent control. The association remains strongly opposed to rent control, but we'd also like to provide clarity regarding that opposition, particularly with regards to establishing severe caps on rent increases. As the housing provider indicated, it is impossible for small mom-and-pop housing providers to cover even basic operational costs, let alone upgrades and improvements, when severe rent increase limitations are imposed. This consequence eventually hurts everyone, as these small providers are providing the city with the most affordable housing. And when they cannot meet their expenses to maintain the building, they are left with no other option but to sell it. This is a consequence that will hurt everyone. Again, we have submitted a very extensive letter that goes over multiple concerns, but I just wanted to highlight a few. In addition to the issue related to severe rent gaps, the city must also recognize the overall cost of rent control ordinances, which, as the staff has stated, can cost millions. And this is another thing that the city must look to as you create an ordinance and potential bureaucracy, that the ordinance provisions will impact directly in the overall cost of such programs. Can the city afford to make the upfront cost in the millions to establish such programs? Rent control policies have existed for more than 4 decades. They have led to severe housing shortages.
Thank you, ma'am, for your
and-
comments. Caller, our host,
Thank
can you
you.
please allow Sandra in?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm actually a landlord for Bell Gardens. And I don't believe in what's happening right now that you want to impose the 3%. I say free and affordable housing should be provided for by the government, and it is provided by the government. As we all know, all the Section 8, all that help that you guys get. And not from the back of landlords, from landlords. This will only deteriorate Bell Gardens. Take a look at other areas where they have rent control. Bell Gardens is a beautiful city. And right now you were talking about drugs and all that stuff. Take a look at those areas where they have rent control. Landlords are already being squeezed. I don't know if you guys remember the COVID when some people were affected, others weren't. And some didn't pay the rent. And I know there was housing is key that I was helping, but guess what? If you're not affected by COVID, they won't pay the backup rent. So there's some backup rent still being owed to landlords as of right now. And why are we doing this in California? We already have a rent control placed. And if landlords don't want to fix nothing, guess what? They usually call Bell Gardens. Bell Gardens, I think you guys have like a city something that you guys help, get the call from the tenant, and they make the landlord fix. So that should not even be a question. I just want you to consider what's happening right now. We already have rent control established in California, and it should just stay like that. And it actually works well for landlords as well as tenants. And these people that are calling that don't even live in the area, they're just calling to impose their ideas on the city. Come on. And oh, by the way, and also the rents, you know, if you compare other cities, the rents that are being charged in Bell Gardens are way below what's really happening in the surrounding cities. I just want you to consider that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Host, can we please allow Maria in?
¿Aló?
Hi.
Buenas tardes. ¿Sí me escuchan?
Sí.
¿Aló? ¿Sí? Ok. Buenas tardes a todos los miembros del concilio. Mi nombre es María Pedro. Pues una vez más estoy aquí como miembro de esta comunidad para pedirles a nuestros concejales su apoyo a nuestra comunidad en pasar esta ley de no más del 3%. Yo quiero pensar y tener la confianza de que ustedes a estas alturas ya se han dado cuenta de la necesidad de nuestra comunidad y que en su mente está trabajar juntos para todos los que los hemos dado ese voto de confianza para que estén ustedes ahí en este concilio. Sé que para algunos de ustedes como miembros ha sido difícil el poder estar en las otras reuniones por sus problemas personales, pero esta tarde confiamos en que puedan darnos la oportunidad a la comunidad de ser familias que vivamos con tranquilidad, que tengamos de pensar que mañana vamos a poder tener que llevar a comer a nuestras mesas, que no vamos a tener que estar sufriendo porque no tenemos para la renta o esperar una renta injustificada. Yo quiero llamar a su conciencia de ustedes. Yo sé que algunos de ustedes conocen de viva voz la necesidad de nuestra comunidad. Piensen en esas familias, en esos niños, en esos jóvenes, en esos adultos mayores que viven al día con su pensión muy pobre y que viven con el pendiente de poder pagar la renta. Quiero que piensen en ellos, por favor. Yo confío en ustedes. Sé que no nos equivocamos al elegirlos. Esto es todo. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias por sus comentarios. Host, can we please allow Jose Cruz in? Jose, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, we can come back to you. Host, can you please allow Cassandra in?
Buenas tardes. Sí, mi apoyo es para el control de rentas, para que lo aprueben al 3%. Disculpen, pero aquí hay mucho ruido. Estamos aquí afuera. Mil disculpas. Y pues simplemente decirles que gracias a todos ustedes los que están ahí. Esperamos que tomen la mejor decisión. Sé que tienen mucha presión, sé que es algo que no se puede tomar a la ligera, pero sabemos que lo que ustedes decidan va a ser el cambio de Bell Gardens.
y esperemos que ese cambio sea algo bueno, algo positivo. Por toda la comunidad, por toda la gente que está aquí, de verdad. Muchísimas gracias por todo su apoyo y que sea lo mejor para Bell Gardens. Unido jamás se ha vencido.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you allow Jose in? Jose, you can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes, ¿me escuchan?
Sí.
Mi nombre es Felipe, no José. Pensé que estaban llamándole a otra persona.
Está bien, puede dejar sus comentarios. Gracias.
Sí. Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Estoy aquí afuera del concilio, enfrente en la iglesia Santa Gertrudes con la Virgencita de Guadalupe. Solo también para expresarles mi gratitud por dejarme entrar de este modo y expresar mi sentir en este asunto. Creo que es muy justo tener un tope en cuestión de las alzas, en cuestión de las rentas. Ya de por sí están muy caras. Y sí, en verdad, he escuchado bastantes comentarios lo difícil que es para la gente sobrevivir, llevar el pan o pagar la renta. Y es un poquito loco pensarlo y decirlo de que los dueños de las propiedades ni siquiera se preocupan porque estén las casas en buenas, en óptimas condiciones, pero eso sí, para levantar o aumentar la renta están puestísimos. Es un comentario pobremente de una persona que ha vivido aquí desde 1980 en Bell Gardens, 78 para ser exactos. Y he vivido lo bueno, lo malo y lo feo de Bell Gardens. Por lo tanto, sí, me uno yo a la petición de que sea al 3% como máximo el aumento de renta. Y también que se les exija a los dueños, principalmente a aquellos que no viven aquí, que no les interesa la propiedad más de que el dinero que les está generando ciertas propiedades, lo cual creo yo y quiero estar seguro de que ustedes como consejeros de la ciudad están bien enterados de quiénes son, de las personas que no viven aquí, pero tienen sus propiedades y nunca se paran a checar, a revisar que esté todo en condiciones habitables para la gente que vive en esas casas. Creo que es todo mi comentario. Muchísimas gracias de nuevo. Mi nombre es Felipe. Muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad que se me dio y espero que la Virgencita nos haga este milagro y le haga el milagro a toda la gente que está implorando porque ustedes les ayudan. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias. Host, can you please allow Tyler in?
Hello, can folks hear me? Yes, okay. Well, first I'd like to say I think your interpretation is not working. I have English selected and I wasn't able to listen to all the wonderful Spanish speakers. So if folks can, fix that, I think that would be great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Taylor Thomas. I'm also with Eastern Communities for Environmental Justice, and I'm not a resident of BG, but I have a lot of love and care for folks who do live in BG, which is why I'm commenting tonight. And, in terms of the proposed policy, it's not saying that landlords can't raise the rents. They can still raise the rents. It's not saying that folks can't be evicted. It's just that folks have to have a reason to be evicted. So there's no logical reason to not support these proposals. There are a lot of unethical and immoral ones to not support them, though. And I think some folks who commented are a little confused. As a landlord or a property owner, it's an investment. You're not entitled to a profit. You're not entitled to an income. It's a risk that comes with investing in something. Maintenance, all of that, that's your responsibility. It's the duty, it's the law. If folks want a guaranteed income, then you gotta go get a job. looking to housing is not doing that. And unless folks built the housing, then they are not housing providers. They are just housing owners. There is a difference. So I do, again, there is no reason to not support these changes. Folks can still get their rents raised. Folks can still be evicted. But having these policies in place will help stabilize your community. It will stabilize your residents and all of the public health pieces that folks were mentioning earlier. Having folks in their homes is a public health issue. Having folks in their homes prevents people from being unhoused. It prevents people from being on the streets. It prevents people from having substance abuse issues. It is a public health issue. And so I just wanted to flag again that there is no logical reason to support this, and folks can always revisit it. If you find that it doesn't work for some reason, you can come back to it later down the line. But there is so much research showing that keeping folks in their homes is better for the community in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Jeanette in?
Hi, my name is Janet. I don't live in Bell Gardens, but my family does. I grew up in Huntington Park and Cudahy, so I have been in the Southeast LA area. And the reason that I don't live with my family is because we have been through evictions. We've been evicted 3 times in the past, so somewhere along the way, I kind of just lost my spot at home. I think last week or the last meeting that happened, I did speak a little bit about wanting to leave a comment for like immigrant families. At the time of our first eviction, we were lucky that my grandma was still living in this country and we had somewhere to stay. If we were to go through another eviction, we don't have any more immediate family in this country. So I can't imagine what other immigrant families are experiencing. This is why there's been a rise in like people who don't have homes. I think you would be helping a lot of people in this community if you consider the 3 rent cap, which is not asking for much. Like was previously said, the rent could still possibly be raised, but we're just asking for a 3% rent cap. And a real reason for why these evictions are happening, I still don't know. After all these years, I still don't know why the first time we got evicted happened. It just did. One day we just didn't live there anymore. And I remember I was going to school and taking the bus, so most of my day I was never there. One day we just didn't live there. But yeah, so I'm calling in support for that, and thank you for your time, and thank you to all the community who has been speaking out. I know, like, for myself, like I mentioned, I don't live in Bell Gardens, but I do spend most of my time in Bell Gardens. I was skating at the skate park every day this weekend at Bell Gardens, and got to have coffee with my mom this morning. So yeah, I'm speaking with my community and my family in mind. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Maria in? Maria, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6. Okay, we'll come back to Maria. Host, can you please allow Jasmine in?
Hi, good evening. My name is Jasmine Gonzalez, and I'm writing to support in support of a 3% rent cap, strong tenant eviction protections, and the creation of a rent board. 58% of renters in Bell Gardens are already rent burdened, which means that tenants are already struggling to pay rent. Wages are not keeping up with the cost of living nor with rising rents. You all know this. The city of Pomona just passed a 4% rent cap, and their city has a much higher median household income than BG renters. Bell Gardens has the lowest median household income of all the other California cities, with rent control ordinances, and many older BG residents live on fixed incomes. Council members can and should do better to protect BG renters. Additionally, renters are experiencing a lot of habitability issues in their homes, harassment, and retaliation. Tenants have shared stories of building managers demanding monthly cash payments for their pets, which is illegal. Tenants have shared stories of their landlord standing in front of their bathroom window just to harass and intimidate, which is illegal. Tenants have shared stories of their bathtub sinking, but being afraid to tell the owner because they frequently threaten them with increasing rents. This is illegal. Tenants have shared stories where their landlord tells them to give up their parking spot since they're dying of cancer anyway. This is illegal and appalling. Unfortunately, the burden always falls on the tenant, as the city offers no support for these situations, which is why I recommend the city create a rent board and stop ignoring its residents. A rent board would enforce the ordinance, announce annual allowable rent increases, would arbitrate tenant-landlord issues, create a rental registry, and create a proactive code enforcement program to address habitability issues that includes regular inspections. 77% of Bell Gardens are renters, and the city has a responsibility to make sure they are protected and have stability. So stop looking out for your own interests. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Kala in?
Buenas tardes a todos. El único comentario que tengo, me llamo Claudia, soy dueña de unos apartamentos en la ciudad de Bell Gardens, son 3 unidades. Y el único comentario que tengo, y lo voy a decir en español porque quiero que las personas que hablan español entiendan y comprendan, los dueños no están en contra de ustedes. Los buenos dueños no estamos en contra de que haya una cap en la renta, pero un 3% no es suficiente para mantener las unidades corriendo. Son 3 unidades las que tengo y mis taxes son de más de 13,000 al año. Mi mortgage tengo un rate ajustable. So, yo le estoy proveyendo casa a 3 familias y ellos están contentos y yo estoy contento con ellos. La mayoría tienen más de 12 años viviendo ahí. Nunca les había subido la renta. Este año sí la subí porque todo subió. Cuando un landlord sube la renta, quizá hay algunos que sí son ambiciosos o quizás son malas personas, pero habemos otros que no lo somos. Habemos otros que no somos y nos vamos a ver afectados por estas regulaciones. Las únicas veces que yo he tenido que hacer una eviction es porque la gente no quiere pagar renta. No porque no pueden, es porque no quieren. Si las personas son de bajos recursos, pueden aplicar para Section 8. Ahorita están dando emergency housing vouchers. ¿Por qué no aplican si tienen problemas para pagar? Hay personas que les gusta vivir del más, ¿cómo se dice? Del más weak y se están tomando, se están aprovechando de los buenos corazones de las personas que están en el council. Les voy a pedir solamente que sean justos. A las personas de Congreso, por favor, sean justos y piensen en las dos partes. No escuchen lo que yo digo o lo que ellos dicen. Hagan algo que es justo. Un 3% no es justo. Lo que va a pasar es que personas como yo, que no tenemos la solvencia económica para poner la diferencia, van a acabar vendiendo a instituciones grandes, quienes vienen y destruyen las ciudades. Y ustedes lo saben. Si aplicamos algo que es justo para todos, nadie va a vender y nadie se va a mover. Y les juro por Dios, por mis hijos, un landlord no hace evict a un inquilino al menos que no le pague. Nadie quiere ir a la corte y gastar. Ahorita, ¿cuánto te cobran? ¿5,000? ¿De dónde lo vas a sacar? La única razón y la única vez que un dueño va a querer sacar a alguien es porque esa persona o es un problema tan grande para todos los demás inquilinos o no está pagando su renta. Sean justos, Dios se los va a recompensar. Sean justos y los inquilinos lo van a ver. Sean justos y los dueños lo van a ver. Traten de ser justos, traten de ver las dos partes. No me escuchen a mí, no escuchen a los inquilinos. Escuchen a sus mentes, a sus corazones. Escuchen a Dios. A mis flores siento mucho su pérdida. Es triste lo que está pasando.
Gracias, Cara, por sus comentarios. Host, can you please allow Maria in?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Tejeda. ¿Verdad? Oyendo los comentarios, pues es cierto, ¿verdad? Nosotros necesitamos beneficiarnos con el control de renta como los dueños también, pero también deben de ser conscientes que nosotros tenemos un salario mínimo, las reparaciones no son cada semana ni cada mes, son allá cuando pasan las cosas. En cambio, la renta nosotros sí la tenemos que pagar cada mes. Entonces, sí quisiera que fueran un poco conscientes ustedes de que somos gente, no somos delincuentes, como acaban de decir hace rato. Somos gente que nos esforzamos por estar pagando puntual la renta. Por eso nos preocupa que ustedes no consideren el control de renta al 3%, porque para nosotros es más excesivo. Y cumplir con nuestro deber y nuestra obligación, ¿verdad? Entonces, como la persona, quiero tocar el corazón de ustedes. Pónganse en la situación de nosotros. Pónganse como nosotros, personas trabajadoras, pero con un salario mínimo, que tenemos que mantener familia y más gastos. Entonces, nosotros queremos cumplir con el que nos renta, pero también ustedes les pedimos que ustedes nos apoyen, por favor, que sean conscientes, que somos personas, que somos responsables, que somos personas que queremos salir adelante y también necesitamos de ustedes como gobierno, como para que nos apoyen, para que seamos ciudadanos que apoyamos a ustedes, pero también necesitamos el apoyo de todos ustedes. Entonces, pues a su conciencia, ¿verdad? No estamos negando que aumente, pero estamos hablando de que si usted tiene, por decir, 10 departamentos, el 3%, ¿ya cuánto no va a ser? ¿Verdad? Entonces, para nosotros ya un 10%, un 8%, sí es suficiente porque el salario no lo sube a que digamos, ahorita estoy pagando $15 la hora, ya para el otro que voy a pagar 20, 25, no están subiendo $1 nada más. ¿Verdad? Y con ese dólar también ya en el súper con todo lo que subió, si la gasolina cuánto subió, la salud cuánto subió. Entonces ese dólar que el gobierno a mí me está dando, en realidad no refleja nada en mi economía. Y si me suben la renta, pues menos. ¿Verdad? Entonces, pues ahora sí, como dijo la persona, toco su corazón y pongo primeramente Dios, que ustedes sean conscientes y se bajen al nivel de nosotros. No nos negamos a pagar la renta. Nos negamos a que nos suban un exceso, a que llegue el momento en que no podemos cubrir. ¿Verdad? Pues muchas gracias y ese es mi comentario. Aquí estamos afuera apoyando y estamos para servirles en todo lo que se ofrezca. Que Dios los bendiga.
Gracias. Host, can you please allow Marian, I'm sorry about that.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mayra Rodríguez, vivo aquí en la ciudad de Belgares por más de 25 años. Pues yo quiero darles mi testimonio, ¿verdad?, de algo que me pasó. He sido madre soltera por mucho tiempo. Tuve 3 hijos trabajando día y noche, desde las 3 de la mañana hasta las 2 o 8 de la noche. En ese tiempo yo dejaba a mis hijos descuidados. No tuvieron a su mamá para que no les faltara la renta, no tuvieran que andar en la calle, pero la babysitter no los iba a cuidar. Los descuidé en un tiempo y empezaron a conocer malas amistades. Inclusive se me andaban yendo a las drogas. Se metieron en varios problemas donde yo tenía que pagar y descuidarlos a ellos. Yo quiero que hagan conciencia que cuántas madres solteras están allí afuera, descuidan a sus hijos, no están atentas en la escuela ni en con quienes se juntan. Desgraciadamente desde allí empieza el vandalismo, desde allí empiezan las drogas, desde allí empiezan todo, porque estamos querer cuidar y pagar la renta para que no nos corra un dueño que no tiene corazón, que solamente él piensa en su dinero, que no piensa en la reunión ni en la ubicación familiar. Ese es mi comentario para todos ustedes que lo miren desde ese punto de vista, que la unión familiar empiece dándonos una ayuda desde un control de renta y apoyo con los concejales que están ustedes ahí. Yo bendigo su vida y les agradezco por poner atención en cada uno de los testimonios. Confío, creo y tengo esperanza que van a hacer algo por nosotros. Gracias y Dios me los bendiga.
Gracias. Host, can you please allow Erin in?
Hi, hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Okay, I can see my audio coming up, but I'm not sure if you can hear me. It says I'm talking. All right, I'll go. Okay. Yeah, my name is Aaron Ravelis. I don't live in Bell Gardens, but I know Bell Gardens. It's part of the Montebello Unified School District. I'm also part of the Montebello Unified School District. And one of my main concerns is I'm very passionate about education. And then one of the problems we're having is a lot of students and families are leaving our district. And that's because rent is becoming too high all across the district. East LA, Montebello, Monterey Park, Bell Gardens. And I know the only reason why it's here first is because Bell Gardens is 80% of renters. So I think you should listen to the activists in Bell Gardens and really pass this rent cap. Because honestly, at first it's the rent cap, but next we're going to be coming for social housing, and that is when people have understood that the private markets has failed to build housing, affordable housing in California. What we need is we need to understand the free market has completely failed to provide this basic necessity. The government needs to come in and start building social housing for everybody. And what that is they've had this in Austria, they have this in Germany, they have this in many parts of Europe where you only pay a percentage. For some people, it's 5, 10, 15, 20% of their income goes to rent. And that money is spent on maintaining the building, making sure it's nice and clean and everything's running. And the rest goes back to the city and is saved and to later buy more housing. And that is the only way we're going to be able to afford to live in our cities, because even this 3% increase, it's not a year, it's not enough. We need to start going backwards, because these past 10 years, the price of housing and rent have exploded through the roof. For some people, buying a house is not even an option. Most people are just going to have rent for the rest of their life. And we need to start backpedaling so we can afford to stay. And so I don't have to worry about our district losing money. And I'm scrambling to provide for the kids who are still here. And I promise you this, I know how to run a campaign. If you don't pass this rent control, I will start running people against you.
Hi, Erin, does that conclude your comments? Okay, host, can we go ahead and move on with caller Jose?
Yes, hello? Hello?
Hi, Jose, you can leave your comments now. Council.
Yes, I was calling because rent control is good. I'm not, but at the same time, reinventing the wheel is just going to cost too much money. I've been coaching here in the city of Bell Gardens for over 14 years, and there's a lot more that needs to be done for the city and our youth. There's a simple solution to all of this, and I think that simple solution will be bringing the existing rent control that Los Angeles County has. And like this, it doesn't cost the city any money. We're looking at how much will something like this cost the city, and we're talking about $1.3 million to $3 million to get surveys done and etc. Instead of doing all of that, I strongly suggest and I advise the people, let's go ahead and get become aware of how much it's going to cost us. And believe me, I'm for rent control. I have nothing against rent control. I'm up for it. But at the same time, let's go ahead and get the rent control that's existing from Los Angeles County to relocate that rent control here to the city of Bell Gardens. Now, if we reinvent the wheel, we're looking at $1 million, 1.3 to $3 million it would cost us. Now, I've been working with this community of Bell Gardens for over 14 years. I've coached, I've helped people with homes, I've helped people relocate, and believe me, not only that, but how much money is the city going to lose? Nobody's going to want to come and invest into the city, and a lot of the revenue we do receive is from purchases of apartments, and I know a lot of homeowners as well. And these people aren't looking to raise rent. You know, they're very fair people. I'm not against any owners. I'm not against any tenants. But what I am against reinventing the wheel, which is going to cost millions of dollars to the city. Now, we at the city we need to focus on the things we already have, like the swimming pool, the parks. They're not functional to any kids right now. I'm coaching in one park right here, and at that park right there, it's so tight that it's just infested with so much people. You know, we're going through COVID. Like, for example, right now inside the chambers, nobody can go in because of COVID, but yet they can start these programs which have kids involved, parents involved, and these councilmen want to be behind chambers. Those chambers should be open to the public, for our residents, and ready to go. Now, believe me when I say this, I am up for rent control. I don't have nothing against it, believe me. But what I do have the problem with is reinventing the wheel for this. And that's the only comment I can give you guys. Now, council members in there, I truly respect you guys. I respect all of my tenants, all my residents, and another thing too, because I see these kind of problems, and being a resident of Bell Gardens for such a long time, I decided to not just
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, sir.
to help the people by becoming a
Your time is up.
become
Jose, your time is up. Thank you.
City Council 2022.
All right, host, can you please allow Edna in?
Hi, good evening. My name is Edna Sandoval. I am part of California Latinas for Productive Justice and also part of La Unión de Vecinas de Bell Garden. And today we have heard from residents of Bell Gardens who love and care about their city, right? We have heard from youth who have suffered housing insecurity, parents working to make ends meet, and small property owners who are struggling to navigate this economic climate. Bottom line, what we are discussing today is the price we're willing to pay to support families in Bell Gardens. This ordinance applies in part to properties built after 1995, with exemptions from owner-occupied properties with up to 3 units. It includes provisions for maintenance that take into action property owner needs. It is a common sense approach to a majority renter city in which outsized housing costs are primarily set by big real estate developers who are turning an outsized profit during this difficult time, not mom and pop landlords who are also struggling to get by. In these cities like Santa Monica and Berkeley, they have rent boards that are cost neutral to the city, addressing what's the actual fiscal cost that an ordinance like this will have. This is but one step the City Council can take to support families in Bell Gardens. We hope today we can hear from the City Council what other information they need to stand with Bell Garden families by passing this ordinance. We are here outside City Hall supporting this ordinance, so please, I pledge you to vote yes on this ordinance. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Brenda in?
Hello, my name is Brenda. I'm an 18-year-old. My parents are renters. On the last meeting, I had to stay up for 3 hours, and my friend who was also wanted to participate was late because it was going on for so long. And I just want to leave my comment again that we want a 3% cap on rent increases, just cause protections for evictions, relocation assistance for no-fault evictions, and a rent board to settle housing injustice. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Host, can you please allow Eileen in?
Sí, buenas tardes, ¿sí me escuchan? ¿Hello?
Hello. Sí.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mire, soy residente de la ciudad de Bell Garden. Tengo 17 años aquí viviendo en Bell Garden. Es hermoso sus parques. Me gustaría que sí pasaran el 3%, porque yo últimamente estamos hablando yo con mi esposo de que trabajamos los dos y pues todo el tiempo tengo 2 hijos, porque aquí no se puede tener más, porque él trabaja, uno trabaja el otro y solo para la renta. No hemos tenido ni tan siquiera para a veces poder salir ahorita porque nos aumentan el mínimo, pero para seguir sobreviviendo. Entonces, hemos estado hablando que si sigue aumentando, vamos a cambiarnos de estado. Mi hijo de 13 años dice, no, mami, ¿por qué? Yo nací aquí, amo Bell Garden. Dice, no me quiero ir. Mi hija de 8 años, nos la vivimos en los parques y todo. Amamos Bell Garden. Eso les pido a los concejales que por favor pasen no más del 3%, por favor. Gracias.
Gracias. Host, can you please allow Ramona in?
Hello? Hello, can
Hi.
you hear me?
Yes, you can address your
Hi.
comments to the council.
Okay. Yes, good afternoon to everybody. A few weeks ago, after a lengthy court process, I was able to fight back against an unjust eviction. For months, I tried to manage my anxiety at imagining that my family wouldn't have a roof to sleep under. This is an experience I don't wish on anybody. Unfortunately, too many people today have described exactly what I was feeling. But I am proud to join the many voices expressing support for a rent stabilization ordinance that will provide some relief to the families who call Bell Gardens home. While this ordinance has exceptions for mom and pop landlords who have described similar feelings of anxiety, I will put an end to outsized profits by big real estate companies. With a rent board composed of both landlords and tenants, the decision-making can be put in the hands of people who share the same zip code. After 2 years, the city council is close to providing relief to this majority renter city. I urge the city council to pass this ordinance and work with us to build a better Bell Gardens that stands with its families. Le quiero agradecer a todos los del consejo por su trabajo, dedicación, esfuerzo para hacer una comunidad mejor. Le quiero dar las gracias personalmente y yo que estoy muy agradecida junto con todos los inquilinos de Bell Gardens. Les dirigimos directamente a los propietarios las gracias a cada uno por proveernos sus hogares para que nosotros tengamos a nuestras familias y podamos hacer esos hogares de ellos nuestra casa donde duermen nuestros hijos. Y de ninguna manera acreditamos a los inquilinos injustos, que son irresponsables, que no pagan la renta a tiempo, que no cuidan las propiedades, y al mismo tiempo le damos mucho crédito a muy pocos, pero sí los hay, a dueños justos que sí entienden y lo que estamos pasando, porque me imagino que en algún momento ellos también vivieron lo mismo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Host, can you please allow Franken?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, yes. I mean, for me, it's plain and simple. We've seen in California, you cannot leave rent up to the landlords themselves. We need control over. I mean, obviously, we need rent control. We can't leave it up to the landlords because we see what happens. So, of course, I support the 3% cap rent control. I mean, obviously, I preferably social housing. I think that's the best way to go. You know, like when a previous speaker talked about. And like I said, if we can't get rent control in our cities, then we need to run candidates against those people. Because if they keep voting against the people, we need to have candidates that will support the people. Because look, if rent keeps going higher and higher, what's going to happen? You're going to have more unhoused people. What do you expect people? People can't be working 3, 4, 5 jobs just to afford a house. That's ridiculous. So like I said, if council members keep voting against rent control, then we need to replace those council members, plain and simple. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Host, can you please allow Lilian? Lilia, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, we'll come back to you. Host, can you please allow Rodolfo in?
Sí, buenas tardes, concejales. Buenas tardes, comunidad de Bell Gardens. Mi nombre es Rodolfo Cortés. Estoy llamando en solidaridad de la Unión de Inquilinos de Downey. Yo y muchos otros miembros de la Unión de Inquilinos de Downey apoyamos 100% a esta propuesta. Realmente es lo mínimo que se puede hacer en este momento. 3% es una cifra tolerable para los inquilinos en esta economía, en que los precios suben y suben, y según eso es, que nada más eso pasa, pero no, eso es un acto explícito de los dueños de las compañías grandes. Entonces eso es lo que estamos combatiendo. Esto de 3% de control de rentas es una cantidad tolerable. En mi opinión, realmente debería ser hasta menos, como lo hacen en otras ciudades, muy buenas ciudades de aquí de California, porque hemos escuchado, es muy importante reconocer las mentiras de los propietarios. Ellos dicen que, si vas a establecer el control de rentas en Bell Gardens, que va a haber muchos problemas y que se va a ir para abajo la comunidad. Pero eso es exactamente lo opuesto. Si las personas tienen ese extra dinero, lo van a poder gastar en la economía local. Entonces va a ser muy bueno para la economía local, para los restaurantes, para todos los negocios que hay en Bell Gardens, porque las personas van a tener más dinero para gastar en esos negocios. Eso va a ser muy bueno para la ciudad de Bell Gardens y realmente esta es una gran oportunidad para que Bell Gardens, el City Council, les diga a la comunidad de aquí en general del sureste de Los Ángeles que necesitamos 100% que todas las personas tengan el derecho a estar seguros en una casa y que no tengan estar temiendo todos los días, voy a tener suficiente para la renta. Necesitamos que eso ya pase para el pasado. Queremos que ese capítulo en la historia se acabe. Entonces, por eso pienso que tantos miembros de la comunidad están diciendo que eso es lo que vamos a hacer y realmente las invito especialmente a los concejales que nos pongan atención porque nosotros vamos a votar y si ustedes no apoyan esto, pues ustedes se van a tener que ir porque nosotros necesitamos justicia social en general para nuestro pueblo y eso es lo que vamos a ganar. Entonces, los invitamos a ser parte de ese triunfo. Gracias.
Gracias. Host, can you please allow Lilia Chavez in?
¿Aló? ¿Aló? ¿Me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan?
Sí, creo que sí le podemos escuchar. ¿Intente?
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Lilia Chávez. Estoy hablando por parte de la Unión de Vecinas. Mire, aquí vemos dos personas que queremos dar nuestra opinión. De mi parte, yo quiero decirles a ustedes como concejales que si por favor ustedes pudieran apoyarnos a nosotras las personas que estamos viviendo en un complejo de trailers. Aparte de todo esto, yo apoyo el control de rentas en no más del 3%. Entonces, yo también quiero decirles que, por ejemplo, en esta situación en la que estamos pasando, no nada más para mí, sino para todas las familias y comunidad que estamos en Bell Garden. Mire, si ustedes se ponen a pensar en un apartamento de 2 recámaras, solamente permiten 4 personas, 2 adultos, 2 menores. El salario mínimo es ahorita, digamos, 15 o 16, que viene siendo $2,400 al mes. Si un apartamento de dos recámaras nos viene saliendo de 2,700, ¿de dónde vamos a sacar tanto dinero para nosotros poder solventar gastos personales, gastos de los niños, gastos de comida, gastos de biles y gastos extras que todos como personas tenemos? Yo les pido por favor que nos apoyen a todos porque todos pasamos por una situación, tanto nosotros los inquilinos como las personas que nos rentan, pero sean considerados con todas las personas que estamos pidiendo el apoyo de ustedes como concejales, que por favor nos escuchen, no nos dejen solos, así como nosotros nunca los hemos dejado a ustedes. Muchas gracias y espero su apoyo por parte de todos ustedes que están ahí.
Gracias.
Una compañera quiere hablar, si se las puedo pasar. Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Yolanda Gómez y vivo aquí en Bell Gardens. Tengo ya más de 20 años y esta situación ya se está poniendo muy mal. Ya son las rentas muy caras. Entonces yo nomás a ustedes les digo que aprueben. El 3% está bien. Acuérdense de que no queremos ver más familias en homeless, viviendo en la calle. Por favor, se los agradezco. Gracias.
Gracias. Host, can you please allow a caller with the phone number ending 8100 in?
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Lupe Arreola. I'm the Executive Director for Tenants Together. We're a statewide tenant rights organization here in California. And while I am not from Bell Gardens, we talk with tenants all over the state who are really facing a lot of the same issues that a lot of the folks who have talked tonight and here from Bell Gardens are facing in terms of the increasing rents that are not keeping up with the wages that people are getting paid. You know, currently, if somebody gets paid $16 an hour in California, after taxes, that's about $1,900, right? If your rent is going up by up to 10% every year, that very quickly, it becomes extremely unaffordable for you to be able to live in your community, which then causes irreparable harm. You know, I definitely want to speak to the fact that, you know, folks have said about rent control policies. Yes, actually for over 40 years, cities in California have been passing rent control policies that have held up in court, that have continued to be able to allow landlords to own their buildings, and that have been challenged actually many times and actually have held up even to the Supreme Court of the United States. Currently, you know, the law in the US actually says that a landlord has a right to be able to make a profit from the property. And so, you know, these rent control laws do comply with that and do allow for communities, for folks to still have, you know, decent, reasonable rents, and for landlords to be able to continue to own their buildings. I do want to say that, you know, I think it's really important to look at this issue through the lens of who is the most impacted by these rising rents. Our 2022 snapshot of tenants that we did based on census data states that over 44% of tenants in California are paying more than a third of their income in rent. It also states that about 75% of single mothers are renters. 64% of single fathers are renters. You know, definitely when you have a single parent raising an entire family on one income, any increase in expenses could be destabilizing. It also could mean the difference between the well-being of the family, and it could mean eviction. It could mean having to double up with another family, which then decreases the quality of life for folks. So we definitely see rent control as not just an economic issue, but definitely one that has to do with equity, with community safety and health, and that makes it so that you know, children are at the center of the decisions that our communities make.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Host, can you please allow Saren?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Sara Bereyesa. I'm currently fighting in court to be able to stay here in my home. I'm being evicted for on cost for no reason, just because a new landlord wants to raise the rent to $3,000. I'm currently paying $1,700. And it's sad because I had to split my family. My two daughters had to leave the house. So I'll be able to move out with my young daughter, which is 4 years old. I'm currently, as is, I'm sharing the house with another family. It's been so stressful, suffering anxiety. My daughters are, Addison, one to Mexico, another one with her dad. And if I get evicted for no cost, I don't know where I'm gonna end up at. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to Mexico. I'm looking into buying a mobile home and parking outside Veterans Park. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Plus I have all my animals that I don't know if the shelters are gonna be able to take them. I'm just asking for Bell Gardens to pass some type of rent control to have owners not just kick us out just because they want to raise the rent, because it's getting really difficult out there to even find a home to rent. There's nothing out there, and they want a perfect score of 650 or 3 times your check income. So it's getting really difficult for us to rent a home. Please pass some type of ordinance. I know, they need to live too and all that stuff. I understand, but if we could come into an agreement, something in the middle of 3 and 5% or 3% will be great. And some type of on-cost evictions, even though we're paying the rent, but just because they want to raise the property higher. Just please consider pass some type of ordinance to protect families of being homeless, because I am going to be homeless, and it's sad now that I don't get to see my other daughters because of the situation. And it's easier for me to move to a 1-bedroom room or something with the younger girl than all my 3 daughters and myself as a single mother. So please just hear us out. And I welcome you guys to walk the streets and see all the people getting evicted and all the furniture out there thrown outside. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you for your comments. Mayor, that's all the public speakers that have wished to speak on the on the agenda items. Right now, we have 57 written comments that were submitted. If I may, Mayor, make note for the record that a total of 57 comments were submitted. 23 were in support of item number 1, 34 were in opposition. I'll go ahead and read out the names for the record. In opposition, we had Jesus Garcia, Sandra Sacedo, Tom Clyde, Suzanne Rempe, Gustavo Gabalido, Myra Brian, Enrique Viramontes, Megan Edner, Gina Avalos, Angela Redwood, Robert Fox, Michelle Aguirre, Jason Chow, Martha Contreras, Jim McCoy, Jennifer Delson, John Vanek, James, Bill Moorhead, Park Liu, Daniel Paredes, Megan Edner. And in support, we had Ellie Rodriguez, Maria Martinez, Maria G. Martinez, Sylvia Maraquin, Jessica Sandoval, Yamilix Hernandez, Karina Perez Alvarado, Carlos Perez, Francisco Durenas, Maria Padilla, Lilia Cat, Natalie De La Cruz, Tamara Galindo, Jessica McCormack, Yahira, Jasmine Gonzalez, Alberto Montes, Marta Pineda, Blanca Berta, Daniela Lugo, and Alejandro Sanchez Lopez. Sorry, Mayor, there's a few more that were in opposition. That was Linda Abrams, Leticia A. Cortez, Eli Perez, Hale Tucaman, Jonathan Jagger, Susan Faber, Apartment Repairs, Michelle Aguirre, Lupe Gareja, Mike, Agus USA, Leti Torres. There's also one more speaker, Mayor. Would you like us to allow that speaker in?
I think they already spoke.
Okay. If there's no objection by the city council, I will close public participation. We will now begin with the first item on the agenda. At this time, I will reopen the public hearing at 7:50 at the direction of our city attorney.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Just a few legal matters I want to address before you consider this item. First, I'd like to, if there's no objection, I'd like to incorporate all of the written comments that have been submitted as part of the public hearing. I'd also like to incorporate all of the public comments that we received tonight as part of the public hearing. I'd also like to indicate for the record that at the last meeting, Councilmember Flores was unable to attend the meeting. However, she did listen to the meeting that occurred and all of the public comments on this issue. So she is at this point permitted to deliberate and vote on the item. With respect to Councilmember Cortez, it's my understanding that she had to leave in the middle of the meeting. She was unable to hear all of the public comment on this item. However, she did take the time to listen to the tapes, and she did listen to all the public comment that was provided at the last meeting. And for that reason, she is eligible to vote on tonight's item. That's all I have, Mayor, and it would be appropriate at this time to close the public hearing, deliberate, and then vote on the item, either yay or nay. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to council member questions. Does any member of the city council have any questions?
Mayor, do we motion first to close the public hearing before the questions?
Yeah, close the public.
Oh, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second, Flores.
We have a motion and a second. City clerk, can you please conduct roll call vote?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Barcena,
Yes.
Cortez,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pulido.
Yes.
Thank you.
So just go over. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Right, yeah.
We will now move to council member questions. Does any member of the city council have any questions?
Mayor, before we move on to the questions, may I make a statement regarding my partial absence the last meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. So there was a comment made during public comment, and that's where I find it important to clarify as to why I had to leave halfway through the last council meeting. So 2 weeks ago during the last council meeting, about an hour in, we received, and I think someone's not on mute. Oh, Rick. Okay. So about 2 weeks ago during the last council meeting, about an hour in, the entire city council received news about the tragic murder of a police officer that was also a resident of the city of Bell Gardens. A couple minutes after, I found out that that officer was my cousin. As you can imagine, during the council meeting, I was very distraught. We had to pause and go into a recess so that I could collect myself upon hearing about this very tragic news, and more about hearing it on the dais with the rest of my colleagues. I didn't leave the meeting because I wanted to escape this conversation of rent control, quite the contrary. I'm here to fight for the community and to listen to our community, and we've been in this conversation, as was mentioned, for a couple of years. This conversation was brought to you by this council a couple of years ago, and yes, it has taken us some time, but we're here now. I thought this conversation was so important that I stayed for an additional 20 to 30 minutes. I turned off my camera and I was listening to your public comment. But as you can imagine, I was very distraught. I kept sobbing and I kept crying, and I just couldn't control myself to the point where I just needed to be with my family. I apologized to my colleagues and I excused myself. There wasn't any time to excuse myself with the community. I left to be a couple streets away from City Hall with my family, and I stayed with them until 11 p.m. that night when my cousin's body was transported from Downey, where he was murdered, to the coroner's office. And he will be buried to rest this week. And as hard as it is to be sitting here today, I am here willing to listen to this conversation because it's important to the residents and it is important to me. But I did want to make that clarification as to why I had to leave. It's not that it wasn't important, or it's not that I was trying to escape the conversation. And every single council member sitting on this dais supports rent control. That's why this conversation is here. And we asked for this ordinance, all 5 of us collectively, to be brought to us. And I hope that we have an amazing discussion in the next minutes and that we finally find a solution for our community tonight. That is it. Thank you, Mayor.
At this time, I will ask if there's a motion.
Before we continue with the motions, I'd like to make an amendment to the current RSO.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry. Before we start with the motions, I'd like to make an amendment to the current RSO in front of us, the proposed ordinance. I think I was being briefed by legal pertaining to the amendment that I'm going to propose, but I feel that it is absolutely dire necessary to make it before we move forward on this, because although we can approve this and come back for future amendments, the reality is that it's not going to be very simple. And as you can tell, it takes a lot of work to just get here, have a conversation and have that vote. So hopefully the amendment that I am proposing is light enough, but important enough so that we can incorporate it on this specific reading and that we can make the changes today, right now, with the legal team present so that we can move forward with it. Now, under the rental unit registration, it's section 5.62.090 on the rental unit registration. It talks about landlords having to register each and every single unit in the city of Bell Gardens. And just on the conversation, I just want to, before I continue on this, I want to make something abundantly clear. I don't think it's fair to vilify landlords. Not all landlords are bad. Because our city is so predominantly made up of renters is why we have the opportunity to say that there are quite a bunch of bad landlords, but it's not all of them. And it's unfair to vilify all of them and to try and punish them, because that's not just, correct? So anyhow, moving forward on that note, every single landlord that has a unit in the city of Bell Gardens would have to register, and there's a fee. However, I am proposing that every single landlord does register the unit. However, if they are residents of the city of Bell Gardens and they own 1, 2, 3 units, that they do not pay anything, because that means that they're small owners and they're residents of the city. So this way we protect them as residents. And we also give them a break, because obviously they're small landlords that are they're still living in Bell Gardens. They're not,
private entities outside of our city making money off our neighbors. There are people who are our current neighbors. Off the top of my head, I can think of a resident who has a barber shop, who owns 3 units in the city, who was hit, devastated, almost was, going bankrupt during COVID. And to have her register her unit to pay additionally would be an additional burden that she cannot afford. And it's not fair because she's our neighbor and she's providing housing and she's trying to make means. So let's not charge them. Just in the same way that we give free registration or discounts to residents of Bell Gardens when they sign up for a sport event, we should do the same thing for this particular item. So legal, with that small amendment, could you come up with the wording so that we can implement this on this document today so that we don't have to come back for it?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember. I'm going to refer to Norma Tabares on this issue. She is on the screen. Norma, can you weigh in on that issue, please?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can, I would want to come up with very specific wording in order to incorporate that amendment as opposed to just conceptually. So that's something that I can try to work on while the discussion continues.
So to be more specific, I'm specifically looking for residents that own property in the city of Bell Gardens, that live in the city of Bell Gardens, that have up to 3 units in the city. Those 3 units, that means that they would qualify to make it free. So to waive the registration fee. 1, 2.
Right. So are you, I'm sorry, you're, just to be clear, are we talking about an owner occupied property or
correct.
Owner
occupied property? Owner occupied property that does not exceed the 3 units.
Up to 3
I'm sorry,
units,
it should be
right.
4 because if they 1, 2, 3, if they live in the 4th one, right? So it could be, they could own 3 and those 3 would be waived and they would be the owner occupied. So then we're looking at a total of 4 dwelling units.
Okay, so
As long as it is
owner-occupied
owner
up to 3
occupied, as
units.
long as they're within the same address, within the same property, then we should waive that registration for them as to not add an additional burden to our Bell Gardens resident who is providing housing.
Okay, thank you
Thank
for
you.
that clarification. Let me come up with some wording that
Thank you so much. We'll go
that
ahead
can
and
be
continue with the
incorporated as part
conversation.
of the motion.
Thank you, Norma. Now, one more thing, maybe Gus, you can help me out. I know that we have a rental board that's being proposed. For clarification purposes, from what I understood from the RSO, they won't be into effect until a year from now. Is that correct? So who would be policing? Because I know that this ordinance will become, it will start immediately. So who's going to police it until that board comes into realization?
The current city staff, we have our code enforcement team, and we also have a housing specialist that we're recruiting for. But the reason the ordinance, some of these fee items won't be in effect is because we have to do a fee study first. So we've got to identify the costs to create the fees and bring those before the council for approval. And that would include the cost of a rent control board.
So the only thing that I am, and I'm just, playing out hypotheticals here. My only concern is that we pass this ordinance, that there's rent control starting tomorrow or next month or whatnot, and that our current tenants, because they're aware, the landlords are aware that there's no policing or enforcement for it, are going to be retaliated in the span of us figuring out who's going to enforce that, from the fee study to whatever 2023 by its completion, correct? So it
Yes, so
will be city staff.
Current staff will be enforcing it. The only thing we won't be doing is collecting a rental registry fee because we don't know what those costs are yet, or implementing a rent control board until we determine the full costs. So we will be asking for that fee study to come before you, and we're identifying certain costs. In the staff report we identified, we think it's going to be an estimate of about $60,000 to get that done. But everything else with regards to the ordinance, yes, we will be enforcing that.
Gotcha. I just don't want to, implement good rules and good policy without any, consequences or resolutions or, anybody actually enforcing the policies in which we're all participating in. I'll go ahead and that's all of my questions for now. I'll go ahead and open it up to the rest of my colleagues.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So I just wanted to comment on Councilmember Flores' suggestion and refer that to the city manager. I know that the legal is looking at it right now as we speak. I personally feel like the idea is good. Being that I have a background in recreation and community services, I'm completely familiar with the resident model that we have, where we give our residents a benefit by sometimes covering the cost of the registration. I tend to like that. I feel like it benefits our residents directly. Now, my question for the city manager, and I know that legal's working on it. City manager, is this something that we can address once we establish some sort of fee schedule for the ordinance, if the ordinance passes tonight? Or is it something that we have to specify at this particular moment?
Councilmember Barson, I mean, if you look at the section, the 5.60.090, it's rental unit registration. I think what Councilmember Flores is asking for would make it more specific. It'd be very clear now. But also, if for some reason there's an issue from the legal perspective in incorporating that into the ordinance, or if it were incorporated and there weren't enough votes for it, there would be another opportunity to bring that back. We'll bring the fee study item. We'll come to council for the approval to even conduct the fee study, and then we would be able to get direction at that time as well, to specifically say we would like, to the extent that the law allows, to have an exemption for certain resident landlords. So there's a second opportunity there as well, because we don't have fees established at this point. So even if you did or didn't exempt anybody yet, there's not a fee there. So you could do it a second time if legal has any issue with it, or if such a motion didn't pass.
Okay, thank you. I do have a comment to say. I have a motion to make, but I would rather listen to my colleagues before I make that motion. And my comment just involves speaking about the process and about, the things that sort of got in the way, life got in the way for some of us here on the council. And I wanna acknowledge that, it was very shocking to see some of the things that happened at the last meetings that didn't allow us to deliberate on the decision, on this really, really important decision. So I want to acknowledge that it was a legitimate thing that happened here. And I'm glad that we're all together here tonight. I do have faith that everyone has been listening to what the residents are saying, and this is not just limited to this particular hearing. It's not limited to these last 3 meetings. It includes the series of workshops that we did as a rent control ad hoc. It includes hours and hours of work, not only with staff here in the city, but with each other as colleagues, and also with experts in the field, with lawyers, with scholars, with property owners. So we really went out of our way in the ad hoc to do our homework. And I feel like we are reaching now a point where this is maturing. I think the ordinance, one negative way to look at it is, yes, it got delayed 3 times, but I can tell you this much: in those 3 times that it got delayed, we were able to polish that ordinance to a point where we have something so well thought out that I feel very confident about the benefits that are coming to the community. And I just want to say that I have a very good feeling about this, and I want to hear what my colleagues have to say about it before I make a motion. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask for some clarification. So the housing board and the housing coordinator are not the same person or entity, right? Because I do recall we approved a housing coordinator, but not a board.
That is correct.
Okay.
And just to clarify also further, Mayor, and I think to also address Councilmember Flores' question, The purpose of, just to be more specific with the housing coordinator, housing specialist that was approved by the council at the last meeting, it's really supposed to be a robust position. So there's a position that's not just enforcing this ordinance, but is also a, I'll call it an advocate for the ordinance, an outreach person for the ordinance. So the purpose of the position is not to sit back and wait for people to figure out the ordinance themselves and for people to call and say they have problems. Of course, we'll address those issues, but the purpose of that position is to be proactive. So to be at community events, be at workshop, things of that nature to get the message out about the ordinance. So it's also really an advocacy role as well as the enforcement side of it also.
And for clarification purposes on that note, it is also at will, right? It's not an elected position.
No, that position it'll be a position that's included in our one of our bargaining units. So it'll be a represented employee unit, not an elected official.
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
Thank you so much to my colleagues for this. You know, I think this conversation is going well. I think the amendment with regards to the landlord registry is something that would definitely be beneficial to our Bell Gardens residents, to those small mom and pop owners that we worried about. And if that's something we can incorporate to ensure that this ordinance passes today, I think that's important because we are trying to hopefully pass something today so that our community can have some safety or feeling of relief for something that they have been fighting for. I do want to thank all the different people who called in, who emailed, who have been taking the time. I know it's frustrating that you've had to do this for 3 separate meetings. And we do apologize. Life does get in the way, as Councilmember Barcena mentioned, but we're listening to you. Just very thankful. There was a landlord that made a comment about lack of outreach towards the landlords or the landowners, I'm sorry. And I just want to let you know that the reason why the tenants had so much outreach was because there is a nonprofit and a group that took it upon themselves to do this advocacy and to outreach and to bring awareness. And we're very thankful to them, you know, for spreading the word and getting the message out of something that they have been, you know, petitioning for, but that we also, a movement that we began long before that. But that's where the difference comes. The city is very limited in terms of direct targeting or direct messaging, but there was the same opportunity for that sector to also reach out to their own community. But just thank you everybody for reaching out, and we're hearing you loud and clear. And yeah, hopefully when the mayor opens it up for motions, then we'll go ahead and make motions. Thank you.
Before we make a motion, I'd like to just say one more thing. I want to speak to all. This is not, as you guys can imagine, this is not a difficult decision to make. Over the weekend, we all received a very robust email with lots of fun words, as you can imagine, con muchas malas palabras. And it's really, really hard, you know, because we're in a position in which we have to advocate and protect all of the stakeholders, the businesses, the students that are in our district, in our city, I'm sorry, the landlords and the tenants and everyone in it. So it's really, really difficult because right now, you know, talking to you guys in front of our camera, it's hard, you know, it's really, really difficult to make sure that everyone's listening to us. But I want to let you know that, like our council member colleagues said, we are listening to you. And I feel that as Bell Gardens is 80% composed of renters. Any other special interest group made up of that percentile would have already had any sort of protections or something for them. Unfortunately, we don't. And our poverty levels look as bad as they do because we are all renting in this community, and the landlords are very, very small in comparison to everybody that rents. And those landlords that are here living in our community, they matter to us too. They matter to me, and I worry about them because I know that they're hardworking people who are just trying to make a living, who just work that much more that they were able or had that opportunity to purchase that property. And in California, we make up about 30% of the country's homelessness population. We can't solve California's problem or the nation's problem, but we can start here in a little community and a little municipality to alleviate those numbers. And so, Mayor, are you opening it up for motions yet? No, right? Is it open for motions?
Not yet. I think
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem would like to make a comment.
So before it's open up for motions, I just want to say that I'm really grateful to every single person that's participated. If you called, if you emailed, I know it's been a long, long road. Y de verdad que tengo que decirles gracias porque esto no es fácil. Yo he caminado todas las calles de Bell Gardens y da miedo a veces y te encuentras de todo tipo de gente. O sea, de todo tipo de gente tenemos en la ciudad. It's pretty crazy. Y les agradezco a todas las que dieron su tiempo y las que se arriesgaron. Sé que hasta unas las acosaron en unas casas. Y todo eso no fue de embalde. Así que muchísimas gracias porque aunque nosotros sí comenzamos la conversación, gracias a ustedes vamos a poder hacer algo más firme, algo más justo y algo que todos se sientan que los estamos escuchando. Así que muchas gracias por su participación y que no acabe aquí, que siga en el futuro porque las necesitamos. Muchas gracias.
Mayor Pro Tem will make some comments and then I'll ask for a motion.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right. Rent control, just cause evictions. I remember January 18th, 2020, pre-pandemic meeting with Michelle, Sandra, and countless other vecinas. It was the first reunion with California Latinas for Reproductive Justice and perhaps the creation of Unión de Vecinas de Bell Gardens. We met at Ford Park Auditorium and we discussed renters, we discussed housing, we discussed mental health and much more. This was my first endeavor with rent control in our great city of Bell Gardens. And today, I'm really hopeful and have faith that we will make incredible progress. It's here again. After countless weeks, months, years, the topic of rent control and just cause evictions is here before us. We've heard about the families struggling, making ends meet. We've heard about the families being evicted. We've heard about various cases. Before we move forward, I do want to thank everyone who called in, sent emails, called a meeting, and participated today. I do want to acknowledge the warriors, the Vecinas Poderosas who made this possible, the Unión de Vecinas de Bell Gardens, California Latinas for Reproductive Justice, East Yards Communities for Environmental Justice, Strategic Action for a Just Economy, and everybody else who played a part in making this possible. I also want to acknowledge and thank the ad hoc committee members that included Councilmember Barcena and Councilmember Cortez. And finally, I'd like to thank our staff, city manager, legal team, LAFLA, and LAFLA for presenting this to us today. For the longest, including this whole weekend, today, all day as well, I've been figuring out what to say and how to say it. And at the end, I came up with this. This item, this topic is by far one of the most important we've ever talked about. It's certainly for me, for my tenure here on the city council. Let me begin by saying housing is a human right. This is an interconnected systemic issue that is driven by the fact that wages have remained stagnant. In the past, I've tried to shy away from the conversation of age. I mention it every once in a while, however, I'm going to mention it in this case because, as I mentioned, it is interconnected systematically. In this system, we're encouraged to graduate high school, go to college, and hopefully get a good job that pays a decent amount that will allow us to live comfortably. Although that is the vision, in many cases, this is not the reality. The reality is the following. The reality is that we're encouraging our youth to graduate high school, go to college, get a good job, and perhaps maybe not be in debt, right? Some folks come out with 2 to 5 years worth of debt, 10 years, in some cases, even decades. I look at our staff in some cases, the youth staff that work in various departments, mostly in the Recreation and Community Services Department, and I see them and I hear from them. Some of them, as soon as they graduate high school, some of them in high school have to get a job to survive and assist their parents porque con trabajo los padres sacaron sus hijos adelante y ahora los jóvenes que tienen que ayudar a sus padres para seguir viviendo. All while also being a student and getting good grades and perhaps in some cases getting in debt. We can look at this issue in multiple perspectives. Let's look at it in data. Our community is made up by the following, and I know my colleagues have mentioned it. Close to 30% of our community is below the poverty line. Close to 80% of our community is made up of renters. In terms of education, 50.5% of our community has a high school graduate or higher, and only 6.1 holds a bachelor's degree or higher. When we talk about our community, when we look at our community makeup, I see hardworking, determined, passionate, driven, never giving up community. When we get knocked down, we get back up. When we're struggling, we always find a way. As Bell Gardens residents, as Bell Gardens citizens, at a time where everything is off the roof, you name it, gas, produce, vegetables, and other goods are all expensive. Our community is in dire need of relief. We hear about those most vulnerable in our community. We hear about our neighbors, our Bell Gardens familias, our vecinas being evicted, and enough is enough. We need rent control and just cause evictions. People are living paycheck to paycheck, and many are on the brink of homelessness. Moving forward, I feel that it's not only my responsibility, but part of my commitment to do my due diligence and put forward a motion when allowed that included the following: adopt rent stabilization ordinance set at 50% CPI with the cap at 3%, and adopt tenant eviction protections. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the table?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to so move to adopt rent stabilization ordinance set at 50% CPI with the cap 3%, with the cap of 3%, and adopt tenant eviction protections.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
Before I second that motion, I would like to ask Jorge if he's willing to amend his motion to include adding the proposed changes that Councilmember Flores mentioned, which pertain to giving Bell Gardens residents waiving the fee for the rental registry.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Mayor, if I may, Norma, can you read that language so that everybody's clear on what that amendment will sound like and what it will contain?
Yes. Okay, so in the section that, which is section 5.62.090, subsection C, the current language under registration fee says that a landlord must pay an annual registration fee for each rental unit registered on or after September 30th, 2023. The registration fee shall be established by resolution of the City Council. Such fees are intended to recover the city's reasonable cost to implement, administer, and enforce its rent stabilization and eviction protection regulations as set forth in chapters 5.62 and chapter 5.63 of the code. And the proposed amended language would add the following. The fee established under this subsection shall be waived for any rental unit in an owner-occupied residential real property containing no more than 4 rental units, in which the owner occupies one of the units as their principal place of residence, so long as the owner continues in occupancy. And then we go on to define what that means for purposes of the subsection. The term owner means a natural person who owns at least 25% ownership interest in the residential real property. And any waiver under the subsection would expire by operation of law when that owner ceases to reside on the property as their principal place of residence. And this language mirrors the exception language that's in the exception section of the ordinance. So it's language that the council has already had a chance to look at, but it's being applied specifically to this waiver.
Thank you for that. And do you mind just reading the motion that was made one more time? Again, without what you just read, just the motion itself with the percentages.
I'm sorry, were you asking?
Yeah, if legal can just repeat the motion as we are going to be voting on it, just so that for clarity.
Thank you. I did want to get some clarification because I don't think the original motion included the approval of the ordinance number 925. So just to be clear, the motion is to approve ordinance number 925 and to direct staff to include one of the following maximum rent cap options to ordinance number 925 prior to the second reading. And that would be option number 1, Option number 2. Okay, why don't you go? Can you include that?
Yeah, so as an alternate action, I think it's provided on the agenda. It's 50% CPI with a cap of 3%.
Okay.
So this is an ad hoc option.
Okay.
City Attorney.
Okay, so what was just articulated by the Mayor Pro Tem will be included as part of the motion. And then we also have the language that was supplied by Norma Tabares, which was an amendment to the ordinance itself. So it would be those 3 items.
Thank you. And just one last question, just to make sure that everything is very cohesive here. Norma, would you recommend that we include the language of adding a base of 0%? Would that clarify the motion further?
Yeah, I think we need to clarify what the floor is intended to be. Because the way it was currently phrased, I would interpret that to say that the floor would be 0.
Okay, so for Jorge, I would just recommend maybe amending the motion to specify a base of 0%. That way we know that that's the parameter there.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to rephrase the motion again?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. With the rent cap, 50% CPI with the rent cap of 3% with 0% at the base.
Great. And then I just want to make very clear, because this is really important. So, and we're also, as part of that motion, we're going to be approving ordinance number 925, and we're also incorporating the comments that were made by Norma with respect to some of the comments that Lisette Flores had made. So it's all of those items as part of your motion,
yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a first.
Okay,
I'd
I'll
like
go
to go
ahead and
ahead and
second that.
Oh, I'd like to make a second motion, a separate motion.
Let's do a roll call vote first, yeah, on that.
Can we take all the motions first before? Can we take all the motions first before we vote? That way we know exactly what's on the table.
Yeah, that should be fine. Do we have another motion?
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and motion a rent control approval of 50% CPI with a cap of 4% on a 0 base, and adopt the tenant protections, including the amendment about the to waive the residential fees for owner occupied units of 4. Yes, that's my motion. And to approve ordinance 9.25.
925.
925.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask for clarification for staff. When we're talking about a 0% base, we're indicating no increase in rent unless there's inflation. And if there is inflation, maximum of 4%. Is that what we're saying?
Right.
Gus, I think to clarify, it's first you're taking 50% of CPI, capped at in Councilmember Flores' motion, capped at 4% with a base of 0, and in Mayor Pro Tem Chavez motion, it would be 50% of CPI capped at 3% with a base of 0.
So may I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So let's say the CPI is, I know right now it's really high, but normally the CPI is around 3%, Mike. So let's say the CPI is at its normal 3% without, all this crazy inflation, then both of your motions signal 50% of that, which would be 1.5, and both fall well within obviously your ceiling. So then it would be the 1.5. But let's say in the case where it's 8%, so that would be obviously slash 50%, 4%. But the first motion would cap it at 3, and the second motion would cap it at 4. But it's always just going to be the 50% of the CPI. Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second Councilwoman Flores' motion.
Any other motions? City Clerk, can you please conduct roll call vote for the motion from Mayor Pro Tem Jorge, second by Councilmember Barcena? Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Barcena?
Yes.
Cortez?
No.
Flores?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Pulido? No. Can you please conduct roll call vote for the motion presented by Councilwoman Flores and second by Councilwoman Cortez, please? Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Barcena?
Yes.
Cortez?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
And Mayor Pulido? Yes, and I'm very happy that both of you were present to participate in this conversation. I think this conversation would not have been as effective if you had not been here in the last meeting. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor, for urging that you wait on this for us. We really appreciate it. And to everybody, congratulations. The city of Bell Gardens just made history, and all of Southeast Los Angeles will become the first city with an adopted rent control.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I want to thank the entire council here, really from the bottom of my heart. You know, when I ran for office, I ran so that we can make changes that deeply and positively impact the community. And I like to believe that all of you guys did, because what I saw tonight really screams that, right? And I appreciate it. I appreciate the patience. I know it's been a rocky road, but I think this is just something that I'm very happy about, and our residents deserve all that and more. So thank you for having the courage to stand up for the community.
Mayor.
Yes.
Las podemos oír celebrando afuera y en la verdad nos enorgullece poder hacer esto por nuestra comunidad. Creo que hemos hecho buenas decisiones en este concilio para traer programas, para traer mejoramiento a nuestra comunidad, y ojalá y lo puedan ver. Les prometimos desde hace meses que nosotros íbamos a pelear por ustedes, y creo que aquí está la prueba. Los 5 pudimos llegar a un acuerdo para traerles control de renta a la ciudad de Bell Gardens. Como mencionó la concejal Flores, el día de hoy estamos haciendo historia, y ojalá y todas las otras comunidades en el sureste sigan nuestro ejemplo. Fueron conversaciones muy duras, nos ha tomado muchísimo tiempo, pero no fue en balde, y su esfuerzo de ustedes no fue en balde. Trabajaron muy duro, muy fuerte, y creo que este es un ejemplo de cómo trabaja nuestra democracia, cómo trabaja su voz y su voto en este país, y por eso estamos aquí, para mejorarnos, para mejorar a nuestras familias, y ojalá con esto, ojalá y les traiga un poquito de calma a sus vidas. Y aquí vamos a estar para continuar apoyándolos. Congratulations, everyone. This council, it has been an arduous and very, very long conversation. It has been very hard at times, but today we made history. So congratulations to the city of Bell Gardens and the 5 council members sitting on this council, and to the community, more importantly, out there. Y sí se puede.
Also, I'm sorry to say one more thing, just a quick 5 seconds. I just want to thank Councilmember Jorge. I know that he thanked everyone here, I think, but I also want to thank him because I know that he's been working really hard, even though he's not in the ad hoc or anything. He's been working very hard out there, and that's what I've seen. And so thank you, Jorge, for your dedication. And of course, thank you to the ad hoc.
And any final comments before we move on?
I'll go ahead and say something really quick. I just want to thank you all to my colleagues for making this possible, right? This is huge, this is massive, this is I'd say history, but herstory, right? And it means a lot to me, making this possible. To all the vecinas that are listening, felicidades, right? This has been a journey. Costó mucho trabajo. Igualmente, yo como le he dicho muchas veces antes, de que nosotros como concejales muchas veces estamos aquí, estamos haciendo la decisión, pero al punto que quiero decir es de que ustedes son los que han hecho todo el trabajo, tocando las puertas, corriendo la voz en las redes sociales, etc. So, les agradezco demasiado de parte de mi corazón todo el trabajo que han hecho. Y igualmente, quiero decir que cuando dije que eran mujeres poderosas, vecinas poderosas, en serio es que lo digo, porque yo las miro a ustedes y miro muchas veces a mi mamá, miro muchas veces a mis tías, y pues el que esfuerzo, ¿verdad? Y nuestra comunidad está bendecida de tenerlas a ustedes, y que pudieron correr la voz y educar las demás señoras aquí en nuestra comunidad. So, de nuevo, que Dios las siga bendiciendo, y gracias a Dios que podemos hacer esto posible. So, de nuevo, muchas gracias, y hay que celebrar.
So I'll say it in Spanish. Lo que quiero entender es desde cuándo el vicealcalde es de Cuba, Puerto Rico, parece boricua. Have
No
you
sé
guys
por qué me
noticed
estás.
that?
No, en serio, no sé por
A
qué me
few
estás haciendo.
meetings ago, he's like Michoacán all the way, and now he's from Puerto Rico, Cuba.
Un
He's
poquito
like,
de todo.
he's like one
No, en serio.
second away from like singing reggaeton.
He probably went like a Daddy Yankee
Right?
concert or something. Yeah.
En serio, no sé por qué me está saliendo así el acento, pero
What?
pues ya está ahí.
Oh my goodness.
Pero de nuevo, muchas gracias y felicidades. 100% michoacano, sí voy a decir.
So just to clarify, para la señora Susana fuera, and to everybody listening, this is a win not just for the tenants, but also for the landlords, as you will be able to collect a fair and just revenue from your tenants, while still being able to make a living and give a housing to the community here in Bell Gardens. In the LA County, there's only 4 cities with rent control: Los Angeles, Santa Monica, West Hollywood, and Beverly Hills. And now you can add to the list the city of Bell Gardens. So this is a huge win for us, for the city, and for all of the neighbors of everybody outside and everybody at home. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to my colleagues. I want to really express my gratitude to Mayor Pulido, because you really waited for us. And I genuinely believe that this conversation went as smoothly and as adequately and professionally because we were all here together, as we all compose this government body, and we can all together make the correct decisions. So thank you for enforcing that and waiting on us. And to all of my colleagues, it's been a great meeting, and I hope that we continue this until as much as we can.
Can we, Madam Mayor, could we get a break before we go into the actual items of the rest of the meeting?
Yes, let's take a 15-minute break and resume at 8:50.
Yeah, you too.
Es que tú estás escuchando mucho vapor. And we actually have somebody.
And we are back. City Manager, would you please give your report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Polito. Just want to mention, we have an extra week break between now and the next council meeting, just the way the calendar falls. So I want to mention a few items that are coming up. This Thursday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., we have a blood drive with the American Red Cross at Veterans Park. If you donate, in addition to potentially giving life to somebody, you can also receive a $10 gift card and a chance to win free gasoline for a year, up to $6,000. If you go to our Bell Gardens calendar, you can see how to register for that. Also, the city's hosting next Saturday a Tenants Right workshop at Veterans Park at noon with Stay House LA, Communities for a Better Environment, and East Yard Communities. There'll be housing attorneys there and a lot of information for tenants and for landlords as well. This is something that the Community Development Department has been planning for about 6 weeks or so. Also want to acknowledge, because we won't meet until afterwards, September 5th is Labor Day. It honors the social economic achievements of American workers, and it really comes out of the efforts of the labor movement in the 1880s. So it's a pretty old holiday at this point. Also want to mention starting Monday, you've probably seen this on the news, September 6th through September 20th. The city of Bell Gardens is located in the area where no outdoor watering will be allowed. It's due to an emergency repair by the Municipal Water District. That's the agency that we receive our imported water from. They're doing emergency repairs. If you look online, either on our calendar or if you just Google search MWD water shutdown, there are certain techniques and procedures that you can take to help protect your lawn for those 15 days that watering's not allowed. Lawn, shrubs, trees, things of that nature. So really asking everybody to pull together to get through this. The last item that I want to mention is we had a proclamation earlier that was read by Councilmember Flores regarding fentanyl prevention and awareness. The police department's been doing a lot of work on that front with marketing materials at the schools, a One Pill Can Kill campaign. And as part of that, the officers carry around what's commonly known as Narcan. It's basically a nasal spray that's used if somebody is overdosing and can save lives. This is a product that's available at pharmacies without a prescription. Some municipal agencies in very hard impacted communities make it readily available. It's a little expensive, but the city of Bell Gardens through the police department have ordered Narcan kits for all of the city offices. So Ford Park, Veterans Park, Public Works, City Hall, and there'll be training that comes along with that. Each kit has 2 doses of Narcan. So similar to the way staff are trained for CPR, if somebody were to walk into City Hall, pass out, hit the ground, and certain conditions exist, we have staff that are certified in CPR. This would be similar to that or similar to the defibrillators that are mounted on various walls. So similar on the surface, before you do research, it sounds like something you're injecting, and that's not the case. It's a nasal spray. There are safety goggles, masks involved, and staff will be trained on that. So with that, I thank you, Mayor Polito.
We will now move to consent calendar. Does any member of the City Council wish to pull an item for separate discussion? May I have a motion to approve items number 2 to 12?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. City Clerk, can you please conduct roll call vote?
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Barcena,
Yes.
Cortez,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Polito.
Yes.
Mayor, if I may, before we move forward on the consent calendar for item number 6, I had a question. Is it okay if I address Public Works at the time or Community Development?
Sure.
Okay, so on item number 6, it's the installation of an always stop at the intersection of Habanilla Road and Cecilia Street. If my collection serves me correctly, that is right at the corner of Bell Gardens Elementary School. And it is absolutely necessary. However, I have a question at the time. Since we are going to be installing all of the stop signs, is there a way that we can also implement an additional Is it for Crystal? Yeah, right, question. Is there another way, is there a way that we can implement some sort of roundabout at the same time? I know it's a little on the more expensive side, but I feel like it would also assist with the takeovers and the speeding. That way it'll create, instead of just making the stop, you would also have to go around the roundabout to avoid the, the donut activity and extracurricular vehicle activity during that area.
Yes, good evening, Councilmember Flores. We can have that option looked at. At this time, the request for the stop sign, we can move forward with the installation. We will have our city engineer look into the option for a roundabout or other similar complete streets type of improvement, which would take some more time, but for the immediate, we can proceed with the stop sign installation.
Correct.
And we can come back with an update on the other
roundabout
implementation or recommendation from the city engineer.
I just found that absolutely necessary to bring it up now, just because that has been an intersection with lots of problems for years. And 4 years ago, I did ask to look at this, but unfortunately, there was no solution that came from it. So now that we're here, which I'm very happy that this is happening, I do believe that it is an investment to protect the children that attend the school and that are crossing, that we spend the dollars to, implement a roundabout. And I think it'd be the first one in the city, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a good start to have it in front of the elementary school. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll follow up.
City Manager, would you please announce discussion item number 13?
Thanks again, Mayor Polito. This item was a request for an update on the Aquatic Center. Before I turn it over to Recreation Community Services Director Liz Nava, I just want to say, just to help speed up the presentation, the design elements and all that have not changed. Mostly what this update will be, and I think there's pretty significant update, will be in the funding opportunities and the work that we've done to try to receive new funding, and also an update on progress as far as demolition goes. So with that, I'll turn it over to Liz Nava, our Recreation Community Services Director.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Thank you, Mr. O'Kelly. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This item before you is our city manager mentioned is just a really brief update of the progress we've made so far for the Aquatic Center project. As he mentioned, there has been no design element changes, so I'll scroll quickly through what you've already seen in previous reports and get us to what is the most significant update. So again, the projected cost is approximately $23 million, but again, we won't know the exact cost until we go out for RFP and procurement process has begun. We have received back the comments from the county for our engineering and architectural design, and we submitted them back for final plan check to the county. We've secured the funding sources, including $6 million from the Land and Water Conservation Fund, $2 million from Assemblymember Christina Garcia. We've been put on the bill by Congresswoman Roybal Allard for $1.5 million. And we are still awaiting an update from Supervisor Janice Hahn about a $4 million request we've submitted. I'm in constant communication with her office. Unfortunately, she's been unavailable for the past few weeks, but they are working to get us some notification here shortly. So we'll keep you informed of that. The good news we have is that the National Park Service has responded and has given us a notice to proceed. So we are looking to be able to start the demolition of our pool after September 1st. So we just found this information out late on Friday afternoon. So we're excited to bring that forward. It's a little bit of a change from my agenda report just because the information came so late. Now that we have the notice to proceed, we will have to go out to bid for the demolition construction, and we'll need to sign an agreement with the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So as soon as we receive that agreement, we will be bringing it back to council for approval. And we'll also come back to get approval for the RFP process for the demo. And as always, we will continue to provide you with updates. We are very excited about this update. It's a significant one. It's a significant step forward. I know we've all been waiting for it. I just wanted to add very quickly that in the absence of our pool here in Bell Gardens, we've been able to offer a summer aquatic program, and we will continue it. The plan is to continue it through the fall. Through October, we'll offer swim lessons, rec swim, and introduce water aerobics, and provide that through the fall through October. And then we'll come back in the spring to provide lessons, and all will be hosted at the Chet Hollyfield Park Pool in Montebello. So that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions or comments from our council?
Yes, I have a question, and it's more just to reemphasize what our amazing director already presented. Director, how much money have we secured already in funding for our pool?
We're at approximately 9.5 million with the assumption that the bill passes that Roy Ball Allard has put us on for.
So just to emphasize for our community, this council has been working for the past, I want to say 3 years, in the process of building and developing and opening our pool. So as you saw in the first couple of slides, we have a very, we have an amazing aquatic center planned for our community that incorporates multiple pools, that has a sector for our disabled community, that has a sector for our children, that has our sector for our high school, middle school students. And there was a lot of thought that went into it. We sat through interviews to hire our engineers or our design team to design our pool. And there's just been a very long process, but this pool is moving and it's in motion, and we have acquired almost, if this bill passes, $10 million. So that's a lot of money already acquired, and we have plans to seek out the rest and to acquire the rest. There has been some technical holdups where we haven't been allowed to begin demolition or to begin the process. But if we didn't have these holdups from the people who gave us the $6 million, then we would be able to move forward. So that's the only holdup for our community. It's not that this is not going to happen. We've heard so many stories, so many rumors out there. One, that we spent the money. No, we have not spent the money. We haven't even received the money, but it has already been given to us or promised to us. So we will be receiving those funds, but we're not allowed, and they come with certain conditions. We're not allowed to touch these monies for anything else. The other ones that it was a false promise. No, this was not a false promise. We came with every single intention to open an aquatic center, and it will be achieved. And it will be all thanks to the work of this council. So just congratulations to this council. We have victory after victory, and I think this is going to be great for our community. But in the meantime, our Parks and Recs director, thank you so much for being creative and having a backup plan for our swim program this summer, and also to the city of Montebello for helping us out during these tough times, because the pool at Bell Gardens High School also needs repairs. So they're working on that, and we had to move it to the city of Montebello, but we had great success, right? How many people did we have enrolled, or how many students attended?
We had over 170 swim lesson participants this summer.
So although it was in Montebello, transportation was provided, and our community made it out there, and there was 170 participants. So lucky for all you kids who got to swim this summer and be out in the pool and getting some, sun vitamin. But thank you again, Parks and Recs director, and also Griselle. You have been instrumental in this conversation and in this fight. So thank you so much to both of you and our city manager.
Quick question for you, Mrs. Nava. Wasn't there also a recommended million from Alex Fadia's office?
Originally, we had requested 1.5 million from Padilla's office as well. And his office initially had mentioned that they were putting our project to be on the bill, but when the final bill came to pass, he only had submitted 2 projects on his behalf. One was a municipality and one was an outside organization. And so unfortunately, although we thought that we would be included on his bill as well, it ended up that none of the projects got passed through. All but 2 were removed from the bill, including ours.
Thank you. Okay. Well, again, I just want to, echo my colleagues' comments. This is
Councilmember Flores?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like we're having some technical difficulties and our translation services are not working. May we take another break, 10-minute break, just so that we're able to provide
Sounds good.
translation? We'll reconvene in 10 minutes. Thank you. Councilwoman Flores, sorry I interrupted. Do you want to continue with your comments?
Yes, so we were talking about the pool monies, correct? So yeah, I'm so Liz, it's so sad to hear that the bill that was supposed to be moved. So just to, add some context to that, I was over in Washington DC just a few months ago, and we, Councilmember Jorge joined me and my colleague into some scheduled meetings in DC so that we could speak to our federal legislators. And we asked for this money to be earmarked on our behalf for our city, for our pool. And it's unfortunate that this bill did not go through from Alex Padilla's office. However, our phenomenal and fierce Congresswoman Lucille Borba Allard was able to send these monies and to allocate them for our city. So that's good. And guys, when I was meeting with the legislators, remember I said, I'm going to say this again. I said, whoever gives us the most money, we're going to name the pool after them. So I did say that it was my promise, but I had to run it through you guys. So just, if you guys were wanting to name it after yourselves, just remember Lucille did send us some money. So maybe it could be Lucy's pool. I don't know, unless Mr. Padilla decides to send us the 2 million after all, then, we might have a conversation about that too. But this is amazing. And this is just a message to the community to be aware that although, good things do take time. I was just talking to Councilmember Chavez and I said, I'm like, it did take a while, but good things do take time. We can't just whip this up. Unfortunately, prior to our arrival here, there was a long period of council members that unfortunately, just kind of warmed up the seat. And that's not to say for everybody, and I'm not to say that, let's not speak in absolute words, but unfortunately, the results spoke for themselves. And it was a lot of work and a lot of issues that we had to inherit. Thankfully, the 5 of us have all worked really, really hard to continue to improve the community and to work arduously so that we have a quality of life here in the community. And I'm going to go ahead and exclude Mayor Pulido from that comment, because although she was here in the past, she always worked and she's continued to work and she continues to be a leader. So with the exclusion of our mayor, let that shoe fit to whom it fits.
I don't agree with that, but thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Well, I'm definitely not going to talk about that, but I want to say that this is great. We have $9.5 million secured for the pool, right? So looking at it from a negative perspective, it's taken us a while. I mean, we have the pandemic. We have to comply with all kinds of federal and state requirements to make sure that this money is cleared. But now we are here and we have $9.5 million, which is almost half of the entire cost that's being secured now for our pool. I'm gonna ask the city manager, I don't like to say I wanna give direction, but I wanna put something out there, see if people like it. I think we need to inform our residents about where this money comes from, because this is a $22 million project, ballpark figure. And what we need to make sure that our residents know is that the money that's being invested here, and I'm referring to the grant money, is money that we can't really do anything else with, right? It's money that is designated for huge projects that are gonna benefit communities like ours. So I wanna make sure that the public knows that we're not grabbing, discretionary funds from our budget to pay for these particular, for this allocation of $9.5 million. It was just a couple of days ago that I told my friend, yeah, we're working on this huge project. It's gonna be a pool. We have $9.5 million. And she almost dropped her hamburger she was eating. She's like, $9.5 million, you know all the things you can do with it. And I was like, hold on. Those $9.5 million, they're not coming out of our budget. These are grants that are designed to be invested in communities like ours, where the kids need to have better facilities to go and swim or do recreation. So we can put something out there via our social media just to kind of illustrate that reality about this pool and where the funding is coming, I feel like it'll just give a good, like a very positive outlook on what this project's gonna be all about and where the money's coming from to our community that might be in shock right now. Because as you guys know, there's a lot of need out there. I mean, we just passed an ordinance for rent control, but we need to make sure that we let people know, hey, we're not spending your money on this. This is money from the state. This is money from the federal government. So if we can do something like that, I would appreciate city manager. I don't even need to give direction. I just want to throw it out there, see if we can put something out through social media. Thank you.
Sure, Councilmember Barson, and just to add to that, part of the reason that this project doesn't move at the lightning speed that we would like it to move, if this was funded with city funds, we'd actually be able to move quicker with it. Sort of the rigorous oversight, and because it's, you know, as people refer to OPM, it's other people's money, it's the federal government's money, and so the $6 million is the 2 and the 1.5 are a little more locally derived, but the level of oversight that's required, and I'll even say the nitpickiness to ensure that everything's done properly has been the case up till now and will continue to be the case as we move forward with the project. The funding agencies that are giving us multi-millions of dollars want to make sure that they're investing in a project that's going to come to fruition and be a successful project. And so we're confident that we'll be able to make that happen. And we can also put information out, letting council and the residents know as much.
Councilmember Barson, could you have mentioned that she was eating a cabbage, not a burger at this time of the night?
Right, do we have a motion?
I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and motion to receive and file.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. City Clerk, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Barcena,
Yes.
Cortez,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pulido.
Yes.
Thank you.
City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 14?
Thanks again, Mayor Polito. This is for our local commission's appointment list. There are several vacancies, 2 of which I believe are available for appointment for Councilmember Flores and also for yourself, Mayor Polito. So at this time, we just look to see if council has any motions to make appointments for these vacant commission seats.
We have a motion. May we have this item on next meeting as well?
Yes, Mayor Polito.
But then Lissette will have someone to appoint. Lisa. Thank you.
And you.
And me, yes. We'll appoint each other. Public participation is now open for items not listed on the agenda. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Thank you, Mayor. The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the mayor and council members. Each speaker and written comment are limited to 3 minutes. Written comments will be read out loud after all speakers have been heard. Anyone wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by pressing *9. When instructed, press *6. To unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom. It looks like there are no speakers, Mayor, but we did have one comment that was submitted. This comment was submitted by Adriana Segura. Her comment reads as follows. Hi, I am Adriana Segura. I am a 23-year-old high school graduate, a respite worker, reside in the San Fernando Valley and sometimes in Bell Gardens for work. I have problems with the new ordinance that doesn't allow me to be in the city because I have an RV. I work in the city and I do want anything more than to be able to continue to remain in the city as long as I need to conduct my business, and I have been for many years. By prohibiting me from parking my RV and issuing expensive fines if I do, I feel uncomfortable and unequal to the rest of the community who do not own an RV. I feel like I am being punished and or categorized as not good enough. I know the truth is I'm just as vulnerable as the other residents. With that in mind, I want to petition that the law be overturned. I would seriously negatively affect my social health, mental, personal and professional life. Please advise. Adriana Segura.
If there is no objection by the city council, I will close public participation. We will now move to council member comments. Councilmember Barcena.
Again, thank you everyone for working together to get this done. I think we're on our way to bigger challenges, so it's not necessarily like a straightforward party and celebration. I feel like we still got a long way to go. I mean, this is just an ordinance, but we have to actually put it in implementation. We have to implement it and make it work. So I look forward to making sure that we get there and we have an actual practical ordinance that's being enacted. So thank you guys again for everything. Thank you to staff. Thank you to the legal team, everyone that worked on it, from the city manager to our city attorney, our community development department that was instrumental and played a pivotal role, and the nonprofit organizations, which it sounds funny, right? Nonprofit organizations, because in reality, these are our neighbors. These are people that live like a block away from my house. They're people that live in the community. Son señoras como mi mamá, like you guys' mom. They're people that live right next door to us. So we appreciate all that work. And I don't want to keep blabbing about this. I know that everyone feels great about it, so I'll stop there. I do want to say thank you to our directors who have been very responsive to several complaints coming in a variety of flavors, ranging from like street improvements, noise complaints, some safety concerns that have gone to the chief that he's addressed very promptly. I really appreciate everyone's response. I can see that you guys are putting in the effort. And I always let the residents know that we have a good team in place, and that if people are doing a good job, I just let them know. People are very responsive, and they get to hear it themselves because you guys call them directly when needed. So I appreciate that. I see it, and I want to thank you for it. And that's all for me today. You guys have a good night.
Councilwoman Cortez.
Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us tonight and hanging on this long meeting. We had a very successful council meeting. Thank you, everyone who was involved and put in effort and time. I do want to highlight one of our departments today, our public works. I've seen all the social media videos, and I work away from Bell Gardens, so I'm out for most of the day. And then I go to school, so sometimes I'm not driving by while our public works is improving our community. So these videos and social media posts have truly helped me to see just the great work that they're doing. And I'm just like, wow, they're doing that. Now they're doing that. And they do everything. And I'm so surprised. Obviously, I have very little knowledge when it comes to the public works world. But thank you so much for this post. And I'm sure the community is as enlightened as I am, but just want to highlight our public works department today for the great work that they're doing. That is it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Councilwoman Flores.
Yes, I also don't want to sound redundant and continue to, say we made history, but the reality is that we did, and it's a huge accomplishment from all of us. And it's everybody in here, all the administrators and everybody who's a part of this community should be very proud of themselves, because I'm sure there's going to be a couple of reports and everyone's going to want to know exactly what happened here. So Gus, be prepared with all the details, because you're the first person they're going to call. On that note, as I previously stated, with the proclamation, I wanted to give direction. I'd like to see city manager, we can do something to start some sort of a campaign for the rest of I know there's only a few days left in our month, but do some sort of fentanyl campaign for the rest of the days on our social media. And like I said, alert the community, not just through the proclamation, but also the statistics of what's happening here in our community, the amount of times perhaps our police department has had to administer Narcan because of opioid overdoses, such as the one that happened to my family member. And make sure that every single staff member, I know that you mentioned the chief has already ordered Narcan, but every single council member, I believe, should be trained to administer Narcan, as we do deal with the general public on a day-to-day. And as leaders of the community, we have the responsibility to put that foot forward and say that if we can do this, you can do this, you can save a life. I'm not going to go into the details of why I feel that it's so important that we do this, but let's just say that had somebody been there, had somebody administered Narcan sooner on my cousin, he would have been alive today. And unfortunately, no one was able to call for help or administer or give him this this safe new, I don't know, administer the Narcan so that he could live. So I do believe that every single staff member, not just our police department, but our parks and rec that also deal with the daily public, should be trained at least, you know, a couple in each hour, be able to administer this drug. And also, again, the council members, unless they are opposed to that, then by all means, I respect that. But I do believe that we should really focus on making sure that we are able to save lives by administering this. And on that note, I'd like to also thank Public Works Director Cristal Chavez for all of the arduous work that she's been putting into our community. I've had constant complaints about parks being infested with debris of other homeless people that they're leaving behind, and they've gone out there and cleaned it up. Also, various dump sites throughout the community that is quickly addressed. We have to treat our community with love and respect because it's the city that we have. We have to leave the city better than when we found it. That does not mean that we leave trash outside our homes. We have to really, you know, look out for each other. And when you see something on the street, say something. And I just really want to make sure that we really be kind to each other. We're all experiencing also some sort of loss. I feel it just hasn't stopped. Like COVID just hasn't stopped. It just keeps going. And really just be kind to each other because we're all going through something. And that's all for me. Everybody have a good evening. And thank you for this great meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Thank you so much to my colleagues for a very productive meeting. And truly happy that we were able to make history today. And I also wanted to point out some items that we approved in the consent calendar. You know, I'm glad to see that we're going to get another stop sign, Habanera Road and Cecilia Street. I'm also glad to see that we purchased some items for our public works department, an air compressor and a forklift. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be utilized appropriately, and they were in dire need here for our city department. I also wanted to perhaps share in regards to, and I think the city manager mentioned a little bit about watering. I've gotten quite a few information perhaps or inquiries from residents saying whether or not or what's going on with the drought. So there's a 15-day period that's scheduled for no outdoor watering. It's going to be from September 6th to the 20th. So perhaps on social media, if we could just continually share that. I believe I did see a post already, but put it on the story or share it on Facebook and Instagram. And just remind folks that that is affecting our city since we're part of Central Basin Municipal Water District. So it'll be from September 6th to the 20th where we will not be able to outdoor water our grass or anything like that of that sort. So just wanted to mention that. And with that said, I'll go ahead and yield the rest of the time to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. For me, thank you for participating in today's meeting. And I would like to ask that we offer a moment of silence in the memory of Officer Solorio, who was also a resident of the city of Bell Gardens and family member of our Councilwoman Cortez. If there's no objection by the city council, I will now adjourn the city council meeting at.
Actually, if I may, Mayor, I'd like to also add, you know, I'd like to give my condolences, obviously, to both the council members, but I'd like to ask if we could have a moment of silence for Councilmember Flores' relative, also,
Yes.
please.
The same as Oscar and you guys. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that.
If there's no objection by the city council, I will adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:43 in memory of Oscar Iniguez and Officer Solorio.